So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What if Naruto was the vampire god and had Moka Akshiya as his slave? Naruto X Harem. Movie 1. Pain. That was the only word that came to Naruto's mind when he woke up and felt the pain from his earlier battle erupt through his entire body. He looked around to see he was in a hospital room, alone. He had a bitter smile at this as he realized that once again when he was hurting, either physically or emotionally, he had no one to help him. His body was covered with bandages and he could barely move without feeling some kind of ache on his body, but he didn't let that get him down. No, because he kept his promise. He promised her to bring Sasuke back and he did. It just took some physical persuasion to make Sasuke see the error of his ways. Hopefully now he has proven himself. He kept his promise to Sakura, now maybe the girl he loves will acknowledge him. He completed the mission given to him by the Hokage. Maybe now the village will see him as a reliable shinobi instead of the dead last, as they so eloquently call him. Maybe now he has proven he is a human being who works his hardest instead of the demon brat that they have labeled him as, and accept that he is not the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Acceptance, such a funny word in the life of Naruto Uzumaki. Konoha is known as a village that treats everyone as family, all except for one boy. Naruto has lived his life alone, a constant life for survival as the villagers tried to end him. Is that how they treat family? Although he's not an expert, never really having a family, he's certain that the answer to that question would be hell no, but he has accepted it as a part of his life, as just another obstacle to get over in order to achieve his dream. Just then the door opened, interrupting Naruto from his thought. He looked at the visitor to see the busty blonde Hokage. The older woman saw that he was awake and smiled in relief. "Glad to see you're awake," she said as she approached his bedside. "Glad to know you care, Ba-chan," he said with a cheeky grin as a tick mark appeared on her head. "I'd suggest you watch what you say unless you want to extend your time in the hospital," she threatened as she waved her fist at him. Seeing this he gulped in fear, deciding to keep his mouth shut. "Well, now that you decided to keep quiet, there's something I have to tell you," Tsunade said with a frown. "What?" he asked, confused. "You've been out for a few days, and something happened during that time," she said with a solemn look. "What happened?" he asked seriously. Whatever happened must be serious to get a look like that from Tsunade. "While you and the others were still injured, Sasuke used that as an opportunity to escape again. I still had a shortage of shinobi, and with you guys unable to go out, we had no one to stop him," she answered sadly. Hearing this, Naruto gritted his teeth and clenched his fist. All that hard work for nothing. "Where is he? I'll go get him back now," he said as he tried to get out of bed. The moment he moved though, he felt a wave of pain that sent him back down. "Settle down before you kill yourself," she sighed as she watched him struggle with the sheets of his bed. "Fine. When get I get out of here?" he asked as he glared at the sheets as if they were evil reincarnated. "Tomorrow. I want you to stay here for the rest of the day just to be safe," she explained. Naruto didn't like the idea of staying in the hospital any longer, but he would just have to deal with it. "And I want you to come to my office tomorrow when you're checked out," she added as she made her way out of the room. Naruto nodded to her as he lay on his bed trying to get comfortable. During the rest of the day he was visited by Jiraiya, Iruka, Kakashi, Shizune, Lee, Neji, Shikamaru and Choji, who stayed for a small chat until they left him to rest. He hadn't heard a thing from Sakura. Hokage office. Next day, checking out of the hospital, Naruto made his way towards the Hokage tower. On the way there he noticed that nothing has changed. Despite his best efforts, people still glared at him with cold eyes, and he could still hear the hushed whispers of the demon brat being the reason why Sasuke left or how the demon should have just died. He frowned at this for a second before putting the mask of the smiling idiot back on. He didn't want people to see it, but after all this time it still hurt. 13 years of this and nothing has changed. On the outside he wore a mask of a boy who didn't let anything get to him, but on the inside he was still a little boy crying for people to accept him. "Why? I am just like them, but they treat me like this," he thought to himself. "That's the problem. You're not like them and you know it, you just don't want to accept it," a demonic voice said from his mind. Hearing this caused him to stop in his tracks. "What?" he asked as he found himself in the familiar sewers of his mind, looking inside the cage hosting the nine-tailed fox. "You heard me. You're nothing like these humans, but you refuse to accept what you really are," the fox said, grinning. "I am human. Just wait until I prove you wrong when I earn their respect. He thought bitterly, not liking what the fox was saying. Hearing this, the fox couldn't help but laugh. You still don't get it. No matter what you do, the village will always show you as a demon, and deep down you know it. Instead of fighting them, you should just embrace it and become what they've always feared. Instead of fighting against me, you should fight with me. With you? What the hell are you talking about? I may be a giant demon, but even I know when someone takes things too far. And the way these villagers treat you, a child, is definitely crossing the line. Sounds like you care. Naruto pointed out, surprised at what the fox demon said. Guess spending all this time with you has made me a big old softy, the fox chuckled. Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but find that amusing as well. Maybe, but what was this whole thing about fighting you? When you use my chakra, you aren't using its pure form. The fox explained, confusing the blonde. What are you talking about? When you use my chakra, you are using a converted version of it. That's why it hurts when you use it, since the tampered chakra has a double-edged sword effect. If you were to use it at its pure form, you would be able to use it without the pain. Pure form. Right. In its purest form it's called Yuki. It works just like chakra, but since you are human and because of the seal, it is converted into a form of chakra that is more suitable for you, but because it was altered, it has its drawbacks. How can I use it while it's still Yuki? By stop fighting me. Huh? The seal converts my Yuki, and the seal is like an extension of your will. The only reason you haven't been able to access my Yuki is because you've worked so hard to resist me. But there is a side effect. By using my Yuki, it is as if you are fusing with a part of me. And that means that agreeing to fight with me by using my Yuki, you are pretty much agreeing to turning yourself into a kitsune human hybrid. It's like a way to say you've finally accepted that you will always be different. So you have two choices. Either you keep denying what you know is the truth and continue to live in a little fantasy world, or you accept it and stop living a lie. The fox explained as Naruto went silent, thinking over what the fox said. Just think about it, kid, but know this. You and I are going to be stuck together for some time, and I am sick of how these humans treat you. They have always called you a monster, but just think back to how they treated you and ask yourself who the real monster is. I guess, but why are you saying all his now? Like I said, you and I will be spending a lot of time together, so we might as well get along. The fox explained calmly. A clean start, Naruto thought. Thinking about it, the fox helped him out more than anyone, even if it was unintentional or merely for its own survival. Its chakra saved him on more than one occasion. Also, since the fox was a part of him in a way, so that meant that it knew him better than anyone. He didn't want to admit it, but he knew what the fox said was true. People will most likely see the demon somewhere when they look at him, and even if he earns their respect, he will always remember how they treated him. Maybe he should listen to the fox. He sighed as he had a lot to think about. Since we're starting over, do you have a name, or should I just keep calling you Fox? He asked, accepting the fox demon's peace offer. The fox was silent, not expecting this question. None of his previous containers ever thought to ask him his name. He had a small smile as he thought about the changes that were sure to occur in their lives. My name's Kurama. He introduced. Well, Kurama, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet ya. Naruto said with a grin as he extended his arm. His fist pointed towards the large fox. Amused, Kurama reached out of the cage and bumped his larger fist with Naruto's. Things were definitely going to be more interesting. Ending the mind link, Naruto continued his way towards the Hokage's tower as he kept replaying the fox's words. Hokage's office. Suande looked up from her desk, massaging her temple. She was not going to enjoy this at all. She sighed as she looked at the people gathered in her room. Currently standing in her room was her teammate Jiraiya, her apprentice Shizune, and the rookie 12, minus Sasuke and Naruto, and their senseis. The group waited for the final member to join, expecting the blonde ninja to burst through the doors with a bundle of energy. They were surprised when Naruto quietly entered the room, and were even more shocked when they saw a thoughtful expression on his face instead of his usual boyish grin. Getting over her shock, Tsunade cleared her throat to get everyone's attention so she could begin. As you know, Sasuke has, once again, left the village in an attempt to gain power for his revenge. Since you are from his generation, I thought it would appropriate to inform you of the situation. As of right now, Sasuke Uchiha is officially declared a missing nin. She explained. She expected a loud burst from two of the gathered people, but surprisingly there was only one. How can you say that, Hokage-sama? Sasuke-kun hasn't done anything wrong. Orochimaru brainwashed him with that curse mark thing. Sakura cried appalled at the idea of her beloved being branded as a traitor. How could they even think of something like this? She would have continued but noticed her blonde teammate was uncharacteristically quiet. Upset that he wasn't defending Sasuke like her, she confronted him. Naruto. Didn't you hear her? Say something, Baka, she yelled. Having the attention pointed at him, Naruto looked Tsunade straight in the eye. Kurama is right, it's time to grow up and stop living in a pretend world, he thought as he made his decision. Releasing a sigh, he asked the Hokage. Sasuke is now a missing nin, what are your orders? Everyone was surprised at his question. They expected him to be outraged and demand Tsunade to reverse the decision. Coming out of his stupor, Jiraiya stepped in to answer the question. According to my spies, we have about 3 years until Orochimaru can use his jutsu to take Sasuke's body, so we have some time until we have to make our move. Seeing as he is a missing nin, I assume he is wanted dead or alive, right? He asked again, shocking everyone. Naruto knew this wasn't how people usually saw him, but he was tired of this. Sasuke was given too many chances in his book and he blew it by betraying the village, which is punishable by death. I am afraid not. Seeing as he is one of the last 2 Uchiha, the council has ordered he be brought back alive in hopes of gaining his loyalty again, Tsunade said regrettably. Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but scoff. Figures the council would do something like that for their precious Uchiha, he said in the coldest voice anyone ever heard from him. Naruto, how can you say that? Are you seriously thinking about killing Sasuke-kun? Sakura yelled enraged before a thought occurred and she narrowed her eyes at the blonde. I get it. You're doing this because you're just jealous of him. It's probably that petty jealousy that made Sasuke-kun leave, she yelled in an accusing manner. It's always like this. No matter what, she only thinks of Sasuke and blames me for something. To think I thought ever that things in this village would change. Kurama was right, it's about time I stop pretending and accept that some things won't change, Naruto thought bitterly. Haruno, do us all a favor and shut up for once, he said, causing everyone's eyes to widen. They have never heard him talk to his precious Sakura-chan like that before. How dare you? The pinkette yelled as she went to punch the blonde. He caught her fist easily and stared at her with cold blue eyes. Troublesome. Shikamaru muttered, but just as shocked as the others. Listen well, Haruno, the next time you decided to attack me I will defend myself, he stated before shoving her hand away. Not liking this new attitude, she went for another punch, but Naruto sidestepped out of the way and punched her in the stomach. Her eyes widened as she fell on her knees, clutching her stomach in pain. Naruto! Kakashi shouted, seeing his 2 remaining students. I warned her, Kakashi-sensei. I was merely defending myself, he explained bluntly before turning his attention back to Tsunade. Is there anything else, Ba-chan? I am afraid I have some bad news that concerns you, she said gravely as she addressed Naruto. This got his attention as he waited for her to continue. The council has some concerns about your unique situation, she said, with only him and the adults knowing what she meant. They would feel it best if you were suspended from your ninja duties for a year or so, she said, unable to look at him in the eyes. The room grew deathly silent as his words registered in everyone's mind. What? Naruto said quietly. They think it would be too dangerous for you to continue with all that has happened to you. They think you need a period of rest, she said, cursing inwardly. It was killing her to have to tell him this. Naruto, for his part, was seething in silence. He knew that this was nothing but a cover-up. He knew the council was afraid he would lose control of Kurama's chakra. He clenched his fist until his knuckles turned white. He was tired of this. The only thing he ever wanted was to prove he was loyal, and now they've taken his rights as a shinobi. That was the last straw. Enough was enough. He calmly walked over towards Tsunade's desk and silently took his forehead protector off. He took one final look at it before slamming it down on her desk, causing everyone to jump. They want me to have a period of rest. Ill to them one better. Think of this as my resignation, he said before turning around to take his leave. Naruto, wait. What are you doing? Tsunade asked, shocked. I decided. What's the point in serving a village that treats me like shit? I am not going to betray the village and leave Konoha, but I am done fighting for it, he said as he opened the door. What happened? Why are you acting like this all of a sudden? Jiraiya asked, concerned for his godson's attitude. Naruto stopped before he spared the room a final glance. What happened? I decided to stop pretending. he said cryptically before leaving the stunned group. 2 years later, ever since Naruto stopped his shinobi duties, a lot has changed about him. Whenever anyone glared at him, he glared right back. The first few times he did this, the people were shocked. The demon brat never responded like that. People started to watch how they acted around him, realizing that if they push him too hard, he might push back harder, and that was something they definitely didn't want. Naruto rarely smiled in the village anymore. The only time he smiled was when he was at Ichiraku's, the privacy of his home, or the presence of his friends. Friends, they were another thing that changed. Ever since he returned his forehead protector, he rarely saw the Rookie 12, technically the Rookie 10 now. During these 2 years, the only ones to visit, when they weren't on missions, were Shikamaru, Choji, Neji, Lee, Iruka and Kakashi. He also received a visit from Jiraiya when he returned to the village, and received a call from the Hokage so he could catch up with Tsunade and Shizune. No one else even thought about visiting him. If they ever saw him on the streets, they would avoid looking at him and continue on as if they never saw him. Every now and then they would try to persuade him to become a shinobi again, but he would always tell them he wanted to try a peaceful life, hoping to find a purpose in life. The biggest change, though, was his relationship with Kurama. They started off a little rough due to their past interactions, but pretty soon they started to form a close bond. Since Naruto was no longer a registered shinobi, he couldn't use the training fields anymore. He trained within his mindscape. Kurama taught him how to utilize his Yuki, and as time passed he felt the changes within him. He felt the demonic energy mix with his own as his body changed. His blue eyes were still the same intense blue, but now had black slits down the middle. His ears shifted to fox ears that poked through his hair. Wig grew past his ears, that were red-orange color, and a foxtail of the same color. He was explained that the amount of tails a kitsune had was a testament of his power, with 9 being the highest. He learned how to use his Yuki to hide his fox-like attributes. While in the mindscape he endured rigorous training. He learned that he had 2 chakra affinities. His natural affinity was wind. He learned a few techniques, but his favorite was surrounding his claws with wind chakra, increasing their power. His second affinity was fire, thanks to his kitsune hef. Kitsunes were a natural when it came to fire, and having Kurama, who was considered a god amongst the kitsune, as a teacher was a definite help. He also trained on controlling Kurama's Yuki, now able to control 3 tails worth of it. His body and mind were not strong enough to handle anymore without suffering from a type of overload that could cause serious problems. Naruto and Kurama started off with a teacher-student relationship, but as time passed by it soon evolved to a relationship close to that of brothers. It was interesting, really. Once Naruto stopped blaming Kurama, and once Kurama stopped trying to corrupt Naruto, the two found out that they rather enjoyed each other's company. They still annoyed each other now. Kurama could be rather sarcastic, and Naruto knew just what buttons to push to get the fox all riled up, but it was nice. The only thing that bothered Naruto was that he was tired. He was tired of this village. He didn't regret his decision, though he was a little sad that it caused the few people who still talked to him to frown whenever he refused to come back. He wanted to leave the village for a bit. He wanted to explore the world and try some new things, hoping to find some happiness that he couldn't find in the village that hated him. The answer came to him one day when he was going through his mail. He found an interesting letter from out of the village. Curious, he read it, and his eyes widened at what he read. Dear Uzumaki, I am pleased to inform you that you are invited to join Yokai Academy. By attending this school, not only will you receive an education, you will also gain once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. Please note that Yokai Academy is a boarding school, so you will be living there most of the year if you choose to join. By attending this school, not only will it help choose your path for your future, it will also give you the opportunity to interact with people from around the world. Please tell us your decision. The school year will begin in about 3 months. Tenmei Mikagami, the headmaster. Hey, what do you think, Kurama? Naruto thought curiously. Kurama read the letter through Naruto, and to be honest, he was just as interested as his container. We wanted to find a way to leave the village to see the world. This seems like the best opportunity, he mused. You're right. I am not crazy about the whole school thing, but it sounds interesting. Guess we better talk to Tsunade Ba-chan, he thought as he made his way out of the apartment, heading towards the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Once he made sure Tsunade was not in a meeting, Naruto entered her office. Once in, he saw the Hokage herself, Shizune and Jiraiya. The three looked up to see Naruto enter the room. They saw that he had a serious look on his face and frowned. Whenever he had that look they knew that whatever he had to say was important. Hey Ba-chan, pervy sage, Shizune Ni-chan, I have something to ask you, he said as he took his seat in front of them. And what would that be? Tsunade asked curiously. Naruto pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to her. Raising an eyebrow she took it silently as she read the contents. Shizune and Jiraiya watched as her eyebrows rose higher and higher until she looked away from the letter and looked at Naruto. She handed Jiraiya the letter as he lowered it so both he and Shizune could read it. Once finished they were both looking at Naruto just as surprised. Naruto, why are you showing this to us? Tsunade asked, not wanting to believe what she was thinking. I think you know Ba-chan. I would like to go, he said seriously. He knew they would be sad about him leaving and truth be told he would miss them too, but this was an opportunity that he couldn't miss. Why? Jiraiya asked. Like the others he was hoping that Naruto would decide to become a shinobi again, but with this it seemed like a lost cause. Honestly, because my whole life I have been stuck in this village. I have been stuck in this village where adults hate me and teach their children to ignore me. Besides you three, Kakashi-sensei, Iruka-sensei, Lee, Shikamaru, Choji and Neji, I am all alone. He hasn't told anyone about his relationship with Kurama. By going to this school it would give me a chance to see a world outside the village. A chance to interact with people my age who haven't been raised to ignore me. A chance to leave all this hatred. I am not going to be gone forever, but it could be nice to live a different lifestyle for a while. He explained. The three shinobi listened to him and couldn't help but agree. This could be a great opportunity for him. I see. I am not crazy about the idea of you leaving the village, but you've given a reasonable argument. Alright Naruto, you can attend this school, but there are two conditions, Tsunade said. What are they? He asked, figuring that there would be some conditions he had to follow by. I want you to keep contact with us via Toad summons, she stated. Okay. He agreed easily. Second, I want you to enjoy yourself while you're there, she said smiling. The village won't be the same without you, but hey, this could be your chance to have the life you deserved. Jiraiya added with a smile. Thank you. Naruto said smiling. Go mail them your answer and get things settled. I'll take care of the paperwork needed for your departure. Tsunade said. Naruto nodded and thanked them again before leaving as he started his preparations for his departure. 3 months later, during the 3 months Naruto packed everything of value to him. Once he left he knew his landlord would sell his apartment the next day, so he made sure to bring anything important to him. He told his friends his decision, and although they were sad he was leaving they supported his decision. Naruto didn't bother telling anyone else. He knew the word about his leaving would spread and that they would celebrate, but he didn't really care. His last night in Konoha he had one final meal at Ichiraku's and thanked them for everything they've done for him. The morning of his departure Naruto left his apartment and took a deep breath. Today was the day. Once graduating from the academy he thought he was done with everything school related, and yet here he was willingly going to a distant school. As he was walking he couldn't help but frown at his uniform. A white collared shirt, brown pants and a green blazer. The only good thing about it was that he managed to find an orange tie. As he approached the village gates he saw a few familiar faces. You didn't think Wed let you leave without seeing you off, did you? Kakashi asked as he put away his little orange book. Actually, that's exactly what I thought, Naruto said sheepishly. And I thought you knew us better than that, Iruka teased with a sad smile. Naruto, it is sad to see that this village has doused your flames of youth, but hopefully they will reignite at his new school of yours, Lee said, giving his signature nice guy pose. Just promise me that you'll never lose your flames of youth, Lee. Naruto chuckled as he extended his arm. Of course not, and I look forward to your return, my eternal rival, the green spandex ninja said as he shook Naruto's hand. Neji was next to walk up. When we first met I let my misguided beliefs affect how I acted. That was a very rough part of my life, and it is thanks to you beating the truth into me that I was able to get over it. I hope you find what you are looking for on your journey, my friend, Neji said as he bowed in respect. I hope so too. Keep up the good work, Neji. I know one day you'll reunite you clan's main and branch family, Naruto said as he too bowed to his friend. You are the best ramen eating partner ever. It won't be the same without you, Choji said, a sad smile on his face. Yeah, make sure to visit Ichiraku's. Don't let their gift to the world be unappreciated. I'll make sure they put a plaque up in your honor, Choji said, chuckling softly before shaking Naruto's hand. Making me wake up this early. I knew you were troublesome, Shikamaru said, smiling. Stop wasting your smarts by being a lazy ass and actually do something, Naruto joked. Too troublesome. Still can't believe you're willingly going to a school, Shikamaru taunted with humor. You and me both, but here we are. Try not to cause too much trouble at your new school. Who, me? Naruto asked innocently. The two shared a laugh before giving their final came up next. I am sad to see you go. You're the reason Tsunade-sama and I are even in the village, she said as she hugged the blonde. I don't know if I've ever shown it, but I am very thankful for you, Shizune-chan. Thank you for being my sister, Naruto said, hugging her tightly. Thank you for being my brother, she said as she released her hold and wiped a few tears. Kakashi was the next who walked up. Kakashi-sensei. Guess this is goodbye, huh? Yeah. Listen, Naruto, I am sorry that I wasn't able to teach you much, he began, but Naruto held a hand up signaling him to stop. Don't worry, Kakashi-sensei, you taught me enough, he reassured. Here's a little going-away present, he said, handing a small box to the blonde. Thanks for everything, sensei, he said as Kakashi rubbed his head affectionately. He turned his attention to Tsunade and Jiraiya. Although I met you guys later than everyone else, I want to thank you. I never had parents, but you two were like the mother and father I never had. Hearing this, Tsunade hugged the boy tight as she smiled with a few tears fell down. She was glad that Naruto felt that way about her. Never having children, she often thought the blonde knucklehead as her own son. Jiraiya was having similar thoughts. I'll miss you, brat. Don't forget to give us a message every now and then, Tsunade said as she kissed his head before releasing him from their embrace. Here you go, brat. Don't open it until you settle in your new place, the Toad Sage said as he gave 3 scrolls to Naruto. Thank you. I'll miss you both, he said softly. Iruka reached into his pocket and handed something to Naruto. I know that you're technically not a shinobi anymore, but you will always be one in my eyes, little brother, he said as Naruto looked at the forehead protector. The one Iruka gave him when he graduated and then gave to Tsunade. Clutching it tightly in his hands, Naruto jumped at the older man and hugged him tight as a few tears found its way down his cheeks. Iruka-sensei, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me. I love you, thank you so much, he said as he hugged the man he saw as an older brother and the first person to ever acknowledge him. Iruka couldn't help but cry a little himself. After the hug, they both wiped the tears away before sharing a similar smile. Guess this is goodbye, he said as a bus arrived. The door opened and he walked inside before taking one more look when he heard Jiraiya call out. Hey brat, while you're there try and find yourself a nice girl, he said with a smirk as a blush found its way on Naruto's face. Yay, I want some grandchildren to spoil. Tsunade added, her smile growing as the blush on his face grew to his ears. Shut up, he yelled, embarrassed as he heard the laughter before the door closed. He turned his attention to the bus driver but couldn't get a good look since his hat shadowed his eyes. Going to Yokai Academy, huh? It's a pretty scary place, you know? The bus driver said with an eerie voice. Maybe, but I can be pretty scary myself, Naruto replied with a grin as he made his way to his seat. Looks like we're on our way, Kurama's voice said through the mental link between the two of them. Looks like it, Naruto agreed as he rested his head against the seat and closed his eyes. This was it. He left Konoha and now he was starting a whole new chapter in his life. Sukune Aono was sitting on a bench waiting for the bus to Yokai Academy to arrive. He was a totally average student with nothing that made him stand out. He had failed his high school entrance exam and had no choice but to attend this school that was in the middle of nowhere. He had no idea how his parents even found out about it. He heard the sound of a running engine and looked to see a bus stop in front of him. Sighing, he stood up and entered the bus as the doors opened. So, you're attending Yokai Academy, huh? The bus driver said, his hat shadowing his eyes. Yay I am, Sukune said while scratching his cheek sheepishly. Well, you better find a seat. I can guarantee that you've never been on a ride like this before, the bus driver said, chuckling. All right then, he said nervously as he surveyed the bus. He was all alone except for one other boy who appeared to be his age. He wore the same uniform as him but with an orange tie and he had short spiky blonde hair. He couldn't see his eyes because the blonde seemed to be sleeping, but the strangest thing he noticed was that the boy appeared to have marks that looked like whiskers on his cheeks. He began to walk to a seat when the blonde began to stir. Rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, he looked around to reveal blue eyes. The blonde seemed to notice that he was no longer alone as he stared at Sukune. "Yo," he said, waving lazily before yawning as he stretched his stiff muscles. "Hello. I am guessing you're a student too." Sukune guessed as he motioned towards the identical uniform. Noticing this, the blonde smiled a little before nodding. "Yeah, first year," he said as Sukune sat in the seat in front of him. "Me too. I am Sukune Aono, by the way," he introduced. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki." The blonde responded as he stuck out his arm, which Sukune shook. The two of them started a conversation, trying to get to know one another. Naruto learned that Sukune seemed to lack confidence in himself, as he repeatedly referred to himself as average or nothing special, but other than that seemed like a good person. Sukune learned that Naruto was a bit guarded about some subjects like family and his home, but didn't say anything since everyone had their secrets. The one thing that the blonde talked enthusiastically about though was ramen. How he could about ramen that much though, was a mystery to him. Sukune rather liked the blonde. He seemed like a very energetic person but knew when to be serious. He was glad to have made a friend so soon. He had thought he would be alone during his time at the academy. Naruto was also pleased. Sukune was his first friend in this new chapter of his life, and he wasn't judged or anything by the brown-haired boy. The one thing he found odd though, was that he couldn't detect an ounce of chakra in his boy. That was very strange. Even if he was just a civilian, he should have some residue of chakra in him somewhere. He made a mental note to look into that later on. Suddenly the bus began to shake violently. They looked out the window to see that they just entered a tunnel. "You two better get ready," the bus driver said, gaining their attention. "As soon as we exit this tunnel, we'll be at the front of the school." He finished before turning back to them, showing his glowing eyes. "And a little warning, Yukai Academy is a very scary school," he said as he began to laugh. "What's with this guy?" Sukune thought as he began to sweat. The look in the bus driver's eyes and the way he spoke really freaked the poor boy out. Naruto, who had recovered from the bus's sudden shaking, just stared blankly at the man. "He's gonna have to do better than that if he wants to scare me," he thought before the demonic voice of Kurama entered his mind. True, but can you imagine if his guy and the scarred-up guy from the Chunin exams worked together? He asked curiously. Naruto thought back to Ibiki and his exam and the way the bus driver acted. "You're right, they'd be able to scare the crap out of anyone," he answered as the bus came to a stop. "Well, here we are," the bus driver said as he opened the door. Both Naruto and Sukune grabbed their bags as they made their way out. Once outside, they looked at their surroundings and were surprised, not expecting what was in front of them. A good distance away they could see the school, but they also saw lightning flash behind it like in the horror movies, and there were a few dead trees around with some crows staring at them. "Well, you two better be careful," the bus driver said casually before driving away, leaving the two boys behind. Getting out of his stupor first, he yelled out at the retreating bus. "Wait a minute. What kind of place is this?" he shouted, but was answered with silence. He took another look at his surroundings, slightly shivering. "This is where we're going to school. It's like another world compared to outside the tunnel," he said more to himself, but Naruto heard him. "Another world? That could explain why I can't feel chakra from Sukune and why I've never seen a place like this. Also, some of the cities we passed on the way looked way too advanced compared to Konoha. What do you think, Karam?" "It could be possible. Most people would probably call you crazy for suggesting something like that, but I really don't have any right to believe that." "Why?" he asked curiously. In his mind he saw the giant fox stare at him blankly. "I've learnt that nothing is impossible. The fact that I happen to be a giant demon fox sealed inside a 15-year-old boy kinda proves that nicely," Kurama explained dryly. "Oh right. Guess you kinda have a point. Well, figure things out later on," Naruto thought before closing their mental link. He turned his attention back to Sukuna, who looked like he would have a panic attack any minute now. "Well, we might as well get going," he said, clapping the brown-haired boy's back as he headed towards the school. "Why, yeah, I guess so," Sukune responded as he followed the blonde, inwardly crying anime tears thinking about how much he suddenly missed his home. The two of them followed the pathway towards the school, but Naruto was already feeling bored. "So Sukune, wanna play I Spy?" he asked, hands behind his head. Hearing this caused Sukune to sweat drop. "We're walking through a dead forest heading to a school that looks like a haunted house and he wants to play I Spy?" "Sure, why not?" he asked with a sigh. Grinning, Naruto began to look around the area. "I spy with my little eye," he started as his eyes kept searching. Towards the side he was able to see something approaching quickly them, something pink. Something pink. He finished, earning a confused frown from Sukune. Where on earth did Naruto see something pink in an area that looked like the home for the dead? Sighing, he began to look around in hopes of finding what Naruto spied. So focused on this task, he did not see a person running towards him from the one direction he was not looking. "I don't see any," he started, but was interrupted when he felt a force rash into him. Naruto, who stopped walking, watched the scene amused. He kept silent as a pink-haired girl ran towards them, not paying attention to her surroundings. As Sukune kept looking around for whatever Naruto spied, he did not notice the girl until she crashed right into him, causing them both to fall to the ground. He began to snicker when he saw the dazed expression on the confused Sukune. "What hit me?" he asked groggily. "A pretty girl, but I gotta say, Sukune, you're much bolder than I gave you credit for," Naruto said, unable to hide the mirth in his voice. Not understanding what he meant, Sukune looked at the blonde questioningly, only to see Naruto pointing. Following the direction of his finger, his eyes widened as a blush covered his face, his body frozen in place. On top of him was a beautiful girl his age with long pink hair and bright green eyes. She was definitely the most attractive girl that Sukune has ever met in his life. The thing that caused him to freeze, though, was the position of his hand, which rested on the girl's thigh. "Why, you okay?" he asked shakily as he inwardly panicked. "Oh my god, she's going to kill me." "It might help if you moved your hand," Naruto decided to add helpfully. Hearing this caused Sukune to blush even more as he quickly removed his hand as if he touched something that burned him. What happened?" the girl asked as she rubbed her head before looking at her surroundings. She blinked as she noticed the brown-haired boy. "Oh, hello," she said happily with a cheerful smile, oblivious to their position. Hi," was the only thing Sukune could think to say after seeing her radiant smile. Naruto just remained silent as he watched the scene in front of him. It was pretty good, if only he had some ramen to eat while watching. "Oh no. You're bleeding," the girl pointed out, and indeed there was a small cut on Sukune's cheek, leaving a small trail of blood. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a handkerchief to clean the cut, but froze when an intoxicating scent invaded her sense of smell. This smell, blood, I can't," she said as if stuck in a trance. The two boys watched shocked as she snuggled more into Sukune's chest. "I lose myself whenever I smell that scent," she explained as she moved her face closer to Sukune's. What's happening?" Sukune thought, blushing furiously. Damn, who knew foreign girls were so bold? Not even Sasuke's old fangirls were this bold. Naruto mused. "I am sorry, but I am really hungry," she said before she bit down into his neck and began to suck his blood. The forest was silent as the two boys stared blankly before her actions caught up to them. "Ehhhhh!" Sukune screamed as the girl released her hold on him before getting off of him. She stood up and dusted herself as Sukune became frantic. Naruto stared at them confused. Could this be how people from outside the village greet each other? He thought to himself as he watched his hysterical friend and the girl who had an extremely pleased look on her face. "Why, you sucked my blood!" Sukune screamed as he clasped his hand over the bite mark. "I am sorry, it's just I couldn't control myself. You see, I am a vampire," she explained nervously. The two boys looked at her shocked. "Vampire? What is she talking about?" Sukune thought worriedly. "Vampire? There's no way those exist," Naruto thought before he heard his tenant's voice. "Like I said, you have a giant fox demon sealed inside you. Kinda proves almost anything is possible," Kurama said dryly. "Right, forgot about that." Naruto chuckled sheepishly while Kurama groaned in exasperation. Before Naruto could respond to her, another voice interrupted them. "Omit. I told you not to run off like that," a voice called out. They turned around to see another girl around the same age as them. She looked a lot like the other girl, but instead of a cute innocent look, like the pink-haired girl had, this one had a more proud, mature, sexy look. She had long silver hair and red eyes. Overall, Naruto thought she looked stunning. Sorry Ura-chan, but I thought we would be late, so I ran. The pink-haired girl, who was now known as Omid, explained. Apparently these two girls knew each other. That is no excuse, Omid. There's no telling what kind of scum that could be lurking around here. The other girl, now identified as Ura, said, not finding Omid's excuse acceptable. I'd really hate to interrupt this moment, but we're still on the topic of you being a vampire. Naruto said, gaining the two girls' attention. Yeah, like blood-sucking monsters that hate garlic, crosses, and stuff. Sukune added. You told them? Ura asked with a raised eyebrow. I sorta had to after sucking his blood. Omid explained sheepishly, pointing at Sukune. You actually sucked blood from another living being? Ura asked, surprised. Yeah, he was bleeding and once I smelled it I just couldn't help myself, Omid said, blushing. You have to control yourself better, Ura scolded. But Ura-chan, it smelled so good, Omid whined. Excuse me? We're still kind of in the dark here, Naruto pointed out, addressing Sukune and himself. And just who are you anyway? Ura asked, though she looked like she could care less about them. You know it's impolite to ask for someone's name without introducing themselves first, Naruto said with a raised eyebrow. How dare you talk to me like that? Don't you know who I am? Ura asked with narrowed eyes. No, I don't know who you are. That's why I said you should introduce yourself first. Naruto replied smoothly while Ura's eye began to twitch. I am a vampire. That should be more than enough reason for you to show me respect, the silver-haired girl said through gritted teeth. You could be a vampire, a demon, or the tooth fairy for all I care, but respect is earned, not given, Naruto said as he crossed his arms. Before Ura could retort, Omid decided to cut in before things got too out of hand. I am sorry. My name is Omid Moka Akshiya, and this is my twin, she introduced politely before pointing to the silver-haired girl who sighed. I am Ura Moka Akshiya, she said, crossing her arms before glaring at the blonde. Now that we've introduced ourselves, will you tell us who you are? Well, since you asked so nicely, Naruto replied, rolling his eyes before grinning. I am Naruto Uzumaki, first-year student of Yukai Academy. I am Sukune Aono. I am also a first-year student. Oh, so are we? Omid exclaimed excitingly while Ura looked on uninterested. So back on to our earlier topic. Naruto started as he looked at the twins. Since you're sisters and you pretty much bragged about it, then you're a vampire too? Yes, I am. Ura said, looking at the blonde. Why, do you hate vampires? Omid asked, suddenly overcome with a feeling of nervousness. Ura looked at the two boys, the look in her eyes telling them that they better say the right thing or they will suffer a lot. Of course not. Vampires are awesome, Sukune said nervously while Naruto got into a thinking pose. The other three waited for his answer until he was grinning at the two girls. Can't say that I do, since I never met any vampires before, but if all vampires are as cute as you two, they can't be that bad, he answered. Omid blushed at the compliment but smiled that these two didn't hate her or her sister. Ura, on the other hand, felt her right eye twitch. I am a proud and strong warrior of the elite vampire race. I am not cute, she said, annoyed. Naruto looked at her with a raised eyebrow before smiling at the pink-haired vampire. Hey Omid, I didn't think your sister was the shy types when receiving compliments, he said. Omid looked surprised that someone would tease her sister but couldn't stop the giggle that escaped her. Sukune looked nervous as he saw Ura clench her fist, her body shaking in rage. I am not being shy, Ura said, only for the blonde to respond by giving her a fox-like grin. Denying it only makes you look cuter, Ura-chan, he responded. Omid watched shocked as a light pink hue appeared on Ura's cheeks, but she was the only one who noticed. She smiled to herself. This was very new. Since you don't hate us, would you like to be friends? Omid asked. Sure, Sukune said, glad that a cute girl like her would actually want to be friends with him. I'd love to be friends. Sounds like fun, right, Ura-chan? Naruto asked the silver-haired vampire. It was my sister who wanted to be friends, not me, and who gave you the right to call me Ura-chan, she asked, annoyed. Don't worry, you'll grow to love being friends with me, and I gave myself the right to call you Ura-chan, he answered while Ura did her best to ignore him. This is great. I was afraid we wouldn't make any since we didn't know anybody else, Omid said, relieved. We better hurry or else we'll miss the entrance ceremony, Sukune said as they made their way to the school. Naruto's room. After the entrance ceremony, the students had some time before they had to go to homeroom. Deciding to put some of his stuff away, Naruto separated from his friends and headed for his dorm room. He was not surprised to see his room was nicer than his apartment back at Konoha. He smiled to himself. Going to school would definitely be a nice change of pace compared to his treatment at the village. He had just summoned a toad to deliver a message to Tsunade saying he got here safe and that although school didn't start yet, he already made some friends. He told her that he'd miss her and the others and promised to keep in touch. After the toad disappeared, he remembered that he had some gifts he still didn't open. He opened the gift from Kakashi first and smiled at what he saw. Inside the small box was a pair of small silver bells tied together. The same bells from his genin test. On it was a note. Hey Naruto, when we first met you had to prove to me that you were a capable genin by taking one of these bells from me. It may seem a little cheesy, but me giving them to you is supposed to be symbolic. By giving them to you, you are not proving anything, but rather I am acknowledging you not as a simple genin but a full-fledged shinobi who I was proud to call a teammate. I hope you enjoy your time at this new school and hopefully you won't forget about you old sensei. Kakashi, how could I forget you sensei? You gave me so many headaches with those stupid excuses. Plus always being 2 hours late for everything is kind of hard to forget, he said to himself, chuckling. He was really touched by the gift and what it meant. He opened one of the scrolls Jiraiya gave him to see they were for storage. Undoing the seal, his sweat dropped when he saw every Icha book ever published and a few that have yet to be released. Hey Gaki, now that you're a little older you might be able to appreciate these works of art. Hell, who knows, you might be the successor after I kick the bucket. Hope you enjoy these. The Great Toad Sage Jiraiya. PS Don't tell Tsunade about this or I might kick the bucket a lot sooner than expected. Stupid perv. Naruto muttered, chuckling before undoing the seal on the second scroll. He face faulted when he saw it was another collection of Icha with another note. Remember Gaki, it's always a good idea to have a backup. You never know what could happen and it would be a shame if anything happened to your originals just when you have found an interest in them. And I thought he would actually give me something useful. I swear if the third one is another set of his books I'll kill him, he said as he unsealed the last scroll, but was surprised when small box appeared instead. There was a note attached to it. Gaki, when the time comes that you appreciate the beauty of the female body, the last thing we need at the moment are mini versions of you running around, so use these wisely. Confused, he opened the box only to have a blush cover his face. He flung the box away and watched as the contents fell to the ground. I am gonna kill him. Who the hell gives a 15-year-old boy a box filled with condoms as a going-away present, he muttered. Konoha sure hope you enjoy those gifts Gaki. Jiraiya chuckled before making his way towards the women's bath area. Yukai Academy. Getting lost in his memories, Naruto didn't realize that he was running late after he made some alterations to his uniform. The 2 silver bells now hung at his side from his belt loop. Figuring that wearing a headband was against school dress code, he adjusted his forehead protector to act like a belt buckle. Running down the halls, he finally made it to his homeroom. Taking a moment to catch his breath, he knocked on the door before entering. Sorry I am late, but I got lost on the road of life, he said, taking a page out of Kakashi's book. The teacher looked confused at his excuse. Okay, don't let it happen again, she said, unsure. No problem, he trailed off silently, asking for her name. Shizuka Nekonomiya. I am your homeroom teacher. Got it, won't happen again Nekonomiya-sensei, the blonde said before looking for a seat. Over here Naruto, a voice called out. He turned to see 3 familiar faces. Sitting by the windows was Ura. To her right was her sister Omid, who was the one who called him. In front of her was Sukune Aono and the seat to the left of Sukune was vacant. Omid-chan, Ura-chan, Sukune. What's up? He said as he made his way to the vacant seat. On his way he heard a few of the male students whisper. How does he know those 2 goddesses? One of them asked. First that brown-haired wimp and now this loser? How dare those 2 think they're worthy enough to talk to them? Naruto simply ignored them as he took his seat in front of Ura and next to Sukune. Isn't this great Ura-chan? Both Naruto and Sukune are in class with us, Omid said, happy that she has homeroom with her 2 new friends. Oh joy, be still my beating heart. Ura said with half-lidded eyes. "Ah, I missed you too, Ura-chan," Naruto said grinning. "I told you not to call me that." She snapped a tick mark forming on her head. "If you say so, Ura-hime," he said before turning to talk with Sukune, therefore missing the light blush that appeared on her cheeks. Omid, though, saw the whole thing and smiled. She was glad Ura met a friend like Naruto and couldn't wait to tease her later on. "Now, as I was saying, I'll be your homeroom teacher for the year. I think you already know this, but Yukai Academy is a school for monsters," Nekonom said. The class looked bored at hearing this except for 2 students. "Monsters? What is she talking about?" Sukune thought as Nekonom began to talk about coexisting with humans. "Monsters? Didn't see that one coming," Naruto mused. "You seem to be talking the news pretty well," Kurama commented. "It's kind of funny that Konoha has always called me a monster and now that I leave I end up at a school for monsters. Kami's funny like that," the fox demon said as Nekonom finished explaining the purpose and rules of the school. The talk ended just in time for Naruto to hear one of the students speak. "Sensei, couldn't we just eat the weak humans and rape the girls?" a student asked smugly, causing Sukune to panic and Naruto to snort. "You got a problem?" the student asked, hearing him. "Sorry, my doctor told me not to talk to smug bastards. I might catch their arrogance," he said, not even looking at the student, causing him to glare at the blonde. "Settle down. Like I was saying, since this is a secret and sacred world, if any humans appear here they will be killed on the spot," the teacher explained, causing Naruto to frown and raise his hand. "Yes?" she asked. "How does killing humans teach us how to coexist with them?" he asked, causing the room to fall silent under his logic. "I am not sure, but that has been the policy since before I started teaching." Nekonom wondered now that she thought about it. Homeroom continued on until the bell rang. Omid had her arms around the arm of a blushing Sukune who looked like he would pass out at any moment. Walking behind them was Ura with her arms crossed and Naruto with his hands folded behind his head, ignoring the jealous stares of the other male students. Omid was taking in her surroundings while talking excitingly and Sukune could only nod dumbly. Seeing this caused Naruto to snicker. "Looks like Omid-chan and Sukune are getting pretty close," Naruto commented. "Too close if you ask me." Ura said. "It looks like someone is an overprotective sister," Naruto teased. "Shut up. It's just that Omid is too nice for her own good sometimes," Ura huffed. Just then another student approached them. "You two are Omid and Ura Akshiya, right? I am Saizo Komiya. A pleasure to meet you," he said while staring hungrily at the 2 girls. Naruto recognized him as the one who suggested eating the humans. Some of the jealous onlookers recognized him and began to back away, remembering the rumors they heard about him. "But why would a pair of beautiful ladies like yourselves be associated with a pair of losers like these 2? he asked as he lifted Sukune by his collar. "Wouldn't you rather hang out with a guy like me? How about we go where the 3 of us can have some fun?" he asked, licking his lips. Naruto reached into his blazer, where he attached his shuriken holster to, and pulled out a kunai. He threw the kunai, cutting Saizo's cheek. Surprised, the bully dropped Sukune to the ground before glaring at Naruto. "What are you doing?" he asked darkly as he released his killer intent, thinking he would be able to scare this blonde punk. Some of the students felt the key and shook a little in fear, but it appeared to have no effect on Naruto. "Please, if you want to scare me, then you are going to have to do better than that," Naruto scoffed before releasing enough ki of his own to match Saizo's. Before the 2 got into a fight, Omid interrupted them. "I am sorry, but my sister and I are having fun with Sukune and Naruto," Omid said before turning to Naruto. "Please don't fight. I wouldn't want you to get in trouble because of us," she pleaded. Seeing the look in her eyes, Naruto just sighed. "All right. I won't fight him," he told her before glaring at Saizo. "This time, but if I see you messing with my friends again, and even Kami won't be able to protect you from me," he threatened before Omid dragged him and Sukune away with Ura following behind. "I'll let you go for now, but I never let a woman that I've set my eyes on escape," Saizo said as he watched them leave. The 4 of them made it to an empty corridor of the building. Sukune was a little shaken up from the whole ordeal. Omid was worried about him while Ura looked at Naruto curiously. She knew that someone like Saizo had no chance against her in a fight and would never let him touch her or her sister, but she was impressed that he didn't back down from Saizo but instead confronted him. Are you guys alright? That was a little scary, Omid asked. I am fine. Thanks for helping me, Naruto, Sukune said. Should have just let me kicked his ass. Naruto grumbled, and if you looked closely it would appear that he was pouting about not being able to fight that bully. After a while of just walking, Sukune finally asked what was on his mind. Why? Why are you guys so friendly with me? I am just an average person. If you waned you could probably hang out with just about anyone at this school, so why me? He asked, wondering why they would want to be friends with a human. Shut up, Sukune. Do you know how hard it is for me to make friends? I ain't letting you off the hook that easily, Naruto answered. My sister is fond of you, so I will tolerate you, came Ura's simple answer. Besides, you're not just some random average guy. We're on blood-sucking terms, Omid said, blushing at the end, causing Sukune to face fault. What the hell does that mean? Naruto muttered to himself. You should be proud. You have the tastiest blood that I've ever had, so better than the blood I get from the packets, Omid continued. Am I just food? Sukune wailed. Plus, you were my first, Omid continued, her face going redder. Hearing this caused the two boys' eyes to widen. Naruto, being Naruto though, couldn't stop himself from teasing the poor boy. Hear that, Sukune? You're her first, so make sure you take responsibility, he said with a grin, causing the boy to blush. What are you talking about? He shouted. I am so embarrassed now, Omid said before lightly shoving him. This resulted in Sukune to be impacted into the wall, crying comically while Naruto laughed his ass off. Even Ura had an amused smirk on her face. Let's go explore the rest of the academy, she cheered as she headed for the door, followed by her sister. Oh okay, Sukune said weakly as a still laughing Naruto pried him off the wall. She is insanely strong, never piss her off. They continued to explore until they came to the dorm building. Seeing the creepy building caused Sukune to freak out, but Omid absolutely loved it. Are we looking at the same building? He asked. How on earth am I going to survive at this school? Are you kidding? This place has so much character, Omid praised. It will do, Ura added. Seeing the boy, Naruto decided to help. Relax, Sukune. I've already been in the rooms and they're pretty nice. Hell, it's way nicer than my apartment back home. I think it's a perfect place for a monster. Speaking of which, what type of monster are you two? Omid asked curiously. Damn it. Should I tell them I am human? But wouldn't they have to kill me? Sukune panicked. Sorry, Omid-chan, but it's against rules to tell you no that the school year started, Naruto pointed out. He had no problem with telling them he was Kitsune, but he was unsure of what would happen since he was still part human. He could also tell that Sukune was human by his reactions to the different parts of school. Ura also knew that Sukune was human. His scent reeked human, but kept silent. Like she said earlier, she would tolerate the boy simply because her sister was fond of him. But she had no idea how Omid didn't know, considering she had some of his blood. Naruto she was curious about though. She could smell human from him, but there was something else. She didn't want to admit it, but the blonde caught her interest. What was he exactly? Oh, you're right. Wouldn't want you guys to get in trouble, sorry, Omid said, slapping her head. I have a question, but since I didn't answer yours, feel free to ignore mine, Naruto suddenly said, getting their attention. You two said you're vampires. How come I don't feel any energy from you? Oh, that's easy. You see these rosaries? They act like a limiter that hides our powers. Once we take them off, our vampire full powers are released, Omid explained, pointing to the matching rosaries that both twins were wearing around their necks before leaning into Sukune. Wow, matching rosaries and your names kinda match too, Naruto said. Yes, our mother thought it would be cute, since we're twins, Ura said with a sigh. But even sealed, we still need our blood, she said before biting into his neck, causing Sukune to scream. The group separated and Naruto decided to lounge on a tree branch and spend the time in one of his friend's favorite hobbies, cloud watching. So you really gonna stay here? Kurama asked suddenly. Well, I lived with humans for so long and you know how that turned out. I figured I'd see how living with monsters would be like. You mean monsters and a human? The fox pointed out. Yeah, I am gonna have to keep an eye on Sukune. He inwardly sighed. But still he considered the boy a friend and he always protected his friends. Heads up, we have company, Kurama said just as the tree Naruto was blasted away. Naruto flipped through the air and landed on his feet gracefully. He looked to see that Saizo was the one who punched the tree out of the ground. That wasn't really nice. I was just getting comfortable, Naruto said as he pulled out a kunai and spun it around his finger. I already warned that weakling Aono, so I'll get you a warning too. Stay away from the Akshiya sisters, Saizo said, ignoring the blonde. Who's going to stop me if I chose not to? He asked, bored. Me, the bully said with a smirk. If that's the case, then I'll definitely stick around them. I wouldn't miss the opportunity to kick your ass for the world, the blonde said, smirking at Saizo's growing annoyance. You get one warning only, punk, he said, walking away before Naruto called after him. And you'll get one warning. Mess with my friends and I'll kill you, he said with a demonic tone in the end that shocked Saizo for a bit. Regaining his composure, the bully scoffed and retreated. That was impressive, a familiar voice said. Why, thank you, but you haven't seen anything yet, Ura-chan, he said, grinning at the girl. Well then, hopefully I will in the future, Ura replied, smirking. Anyway, Saizo said something about talking to Sukune. I am gonna make sure he's okay. Have you seen him? No, but Omid went looking for him earlier, so I might as well go with you, she said as she began to follow him. You don't have to make up excuses if you want to hang out with me, Ura-chan, Naruto teased, causing said girl to blush a bit for some unknown reason. She was not used to people other than Omid treating her like this. She was used to others fearing her, not treating her like an equal. I told you not to call me that, she snapped, causing the blonde to chuckle. Ura-chan is so cute when she's embarrassed, he replied, only serving to annoy her further. The two began their search. You can't leave, they suddenly heard. They turned towards the voice to see a distressed Omid next to a sad Sukune who was holding a suitcase. What does that fool think he is doing? Ura asked angrily. Nobody got away with upsetting her sister. She was about to go over there to show Sukune his place, but Naruto put a hand on her shoulder, stopping her. Wait up. We don't know what this is about, plus it's best for them to solve their own problems themselves, Naruto explained. Ura frowned. She didn't like it, but she understood. The two of them continued to watch the scene in front of them. I am sorry, Omid, but I don't think this school just isn't for me, Sukune said gravely. He would have loved to stay here with her, Naruto and Ura, but the threat from Saizo really got to him. After all, he's human, he doesn't belong here. I think it would be best if I'd just go to a human school, he admitted, shocking the young vampire. You can't go to a human school. I hate humans, she cried. Hearing this, Sukune felt his heart shatter while Naruto cringed. Shit, those were not the right words to say, the blonde muttered while Ura silently agreed. My sister and I went to a human school for middle school. No one believed in monsters and we were isolated. They would even pick on me and I hated that feeling of loneliness, she explained, frowning at her memories. You two were alone? Naruto asked curiously from where they were watching. At first they seemed to like me, but then I beat up some of the boys who were picking on Omid. After seeing that, the kids became too scared to even come near me, Ura explained. Naruto suddenly had the image of a chibi Ura, whose hair was floating in the air and her eyes were glowing red as a demonic aura surrounded her, glaring at a bunch of crying boys who were running away. If the situation weren't serious, he probably would have laughed. But you and Naruto said you were okay with us being vampires. You two are the first real friends we ever had, Omid said. Like I said earlier, Omid thinks of you as friends. I merely tolerate you for her sake, Ura said before Naruto could open his mouth. So mean, Ura-chan, Naruto said, pouting in mock hurt, causing Ura to smirk. Omid was still trying to convince Sukune to stay before he stopped her. What if I told you that I was human? He said, shocking the pink-haired girl, but he continued on. I am human. I somehow got accepted to this school by mistake. That's impossible, she muttered, but he heard her. He noticed her shocked look and frowned. If that's how you feel, then fine, he said before running off, ignoring Omid's cries to come back. Better go help her out, Naruto said as he noticed the distressed look on Omid's face. The two of them made their way to her as tears formed in her eyes. She just drove away one of her first friends. Omid, are you okay? Ura asked softly. Ura-chan, he said, he's human. Is that a problem? Naruto asked gently. I don't know. Every other human has been so mean to me, she said, confused about today's events. Ura-chan, make sure Omid-chan is okay. I'll go make sure Sukune doesn't do anything he'll regret. Naruto said as he made his way to follow his friend, but Omid called out to him. Naruto, wait. Sukune said that he was human. What about you? She asked. Naruto thought whether he should tell the truth or not before sighing. If you want the truth, then yay, technically I am human, but don't worry. I'll prove to you too that I'll be a real friend, he said, smiling before chasing after Sukune. He's human and he still wants to be friends with me? After I said I hate humans? Omid thought, surprised. What did he mean by technically? Ura thought curiously. Naruto, who was chasing after Sukune, found him in the middle of the forest with his head hung low. Sukune, what's up? Naruto said casually as he stepped into the boy's field of vision. Naruto. What are you doing here? Me? What about you? Going camping or something? Naruto asked, pointing at the luggage in Sukune's hand. No, I decided to withdraw from here, he corrected. Why? I thought you liked it here with your friends, Naruto said, sounding confused. Yay, but I don't belong here because, he trailed off. Who cares if you're human? The blonde sighed, surprising Sukune. You knew? Since class. Your reaction to this being a monster school gave it away, but no one else noticed, the blonde said matter-of-factly. Oh, well, since you know, then you understand why I have to leave. If the school finds out, he'll kill me, he said gravely. Sukune, I am hurt. You make it sound like I'd let them hurt my friend, Naruto said in mock pain. Friend? Even though I am human, you still see me as a friend? Sukune asked, surprised. I won't lie, I have had some bad experiences with humans, but it would be unfair to judge their whole race based on a few villagers. Besides, I knew you as a friend first and a human second, Naruto said, smiling. I see, thank you. Sukune said, smiling, glad that he still had a friend. He's not the only one. A hesitant voice said from behind. They turned to see Omid and Ura approaching him, the former seeming more nervous. Omid. Sukune said, surprised. I am sorry about how I reacted, I was just so shocked that I couldn't say anything. Omid explained as a few tears escaped her eyes. But then Naruto said he's human too, and I realized that not all humans are so bad. You too accepted that Ura-chan and I are vampires, so I should be able to accept that you're human. Human? But you said you had bad experiences with human as if you were something else. Sukune said, confused while looking at the blonde, who smiled sheepishly. Well, I am kind of a special case. I am not lying when I say I am human, but I am something more. And I have had bad experiences with other humans. But that's a long story for another day, he explained. Just what are you hiding? Ura thought while Sukune turned his attention back to Omid. Please don't leave, Sukune. I don't want to lose a friend, Omid pleaded. Well, isn't this interesting? A voice called out. They turned to see Saizo approaching them. I thought I told you to stay away from the girls. I remember you saying that, but I decided to ignore you, Naruto said, shrugging while Sukune took a step back. I've had it with you, punk. I'll crush you. Get rid of Aono and take the girls for myself, Saizo said as his body began to shift around. I can't control myself anymore. Just thinking about what I'll do to you is making me lose control, he said as his body grew twice its size as he revealed his monster form. Wow, so this is your true form. Gotta say, it's a bit of an improvement, Naruto whistled. Don't mock me, he roared as he charged at the blonde. Naruto just sighed as he extended his arm as a dark blue orb of light appeared in his palm. Saizo ran straight into it, sending him flying through the air, groaning in pain. Rasengan, he said calmly as the orb vanished. His friends waved shock, wondering what he did. I've improved at controlling my Yuki. I don't even need a clone anymore. Naruto, though, pleased as he watched Saizo struggle to his feet. Since he was trying to get with you and your sister, I'll let you finish him off, Naruto said as he pulled Avura's rosary easily, surprising the vampires. Suddenly a powerful aura of Yuki surrounded the silver-hair girl as her pupils became slits and her fangs and claws became more pronounced. What's the matter, little boy? You wanted me and my sister, correct? Well, you'll have to take us by force. Ura taunted, her power now released. Damn, she wasn't kidding when she said she was an elite warrior. This strength is amazing, Naruto thought, impressed as she suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Saizo. Foolish weaklings like you, Should know their place, she said right before the heel of her foot connected with Saiza's jaw with a devastating kick. She turned to see her worried sister, a sweating Sukune and an amused Naruto. What's wrong, Uzumaki? Now that you've caught a glimpse of my real power, are you scared? She taunted as he handed her Rosario back. Are you kidding? I am thinking that you and I need to have a spar sometime, he said with a grin. Again she was surprised but did not show it. Again he was not scared of her like the others, but instead he was interested. He was definitely a confusing one to her. Just know that I don't always need my full power to deal with weaklings like this one, but since this was the first, I'll let you off with a warning, she said with a smirk as she placed the Rosario back on. Her pupils returned to normal. Her fangs and nails shrank as the powerful aura of energy disappeared. She then turned towards Sukune before smacking him in the back of his head, hard. You had better not upset Omid again like you did by making her believe you were leaving, she said, glaring at him. Sorry. He apologized to both girls. Well, now that that's settled, let's go get some ramen. Sukune's treat. Naruto cheered as he made his way back with the others following Yunel. What he said registered in Sukune's head. Why is it my treat? He asked. 'Cause you're the one who caused us all to worry and stuff, he said, imagining all the ramen they would eat. And so ended Naruto's first day of high school, but he couldn't complain. After all, he made some interesting friends. Yokai Academy, a school where monsters attend in order to learn how to coexist with humans. The number one rule is that no humans are allowed at the school and will be killed on sight. Many think it impossible for any human to find a way into the school, but that is not the case for one Naruto Uzumaki, a half-human half-kitsune hybrid. Said hybrid was now in his room, slowly opening his eyes as the sound of an alarm clock was ringing through his room. Reaching under his pillow, he pulled out a kunai, which he always kept hidden there in case of an emergency, and threw it at the loud device. After rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he stretched until he heard the satisfying pop of his bones before he stood up. Damn, that thing is annoying as hell, he mumbled to himself as he observed the shattered remains of the clock before he stood up to take a morning shower to get ready for the day. Once done, he got dressed for school and left his room. This place looks so peaceful. Never would have thought that this was actually a school of monsters, Naruto muttered to himself as he walked through the school grounds heading for homeroom. It has been about 1 week since Naruto arrived and he felt pretty good. He made 3 friends, which was a record seeing as it took him about 13 years to make one in Konoha, and he got to kick Saiza's ass earlier this week. Friends and a good old-fashioned ass-kicking, a good week indeed. Naruto. A familiar voice called. He turned to see Omid and Sukune running to catch up to him while Ura walked at a leisurely pace. Morning, guys, Naruto said as they reached him. Good morning, Naruto, Sukune said as he smiled at his friend. How did you sleep? Omid asked. One of the most peaceful nights I ever had, he said, and meant it. This was the first time he didn't have to worry about someone sneaking into his apartment while he slept in an attempt to end the demon. Uzumaki, Ura greeted as she reached the group. Come one, Ura-chan, just call me Naruto. I thought we were all friends, Naruto whined in an over-exaggerated manner. Like I've already said, you and Omid are friends. I merely tolerate you for her sake, she said, crossing her arms under her chest as she looked away uninterestedly. So cruel, Naruto said as he crouched down onto the floor, hugging his legs into his chest. A dark, depressing aura surrounded him as he traced patterns on the ground. I am sure she doesn't mean that, Sukune said as he tried to comfort his friend. No, I meant it. The same goes for you too, she said casually, causing Sukune to join Naruto on the ground, tracing patterns in the dirt as the depressing aura spread. So cruel, they both muttered, causing both vampires to sweat drop. Soon Ura noticed a couple of students stopping to watch the depressed boys. Not liking the attention, she sighed before addressing the heartbroken duo. If you will stop making a scene, I am willing to accept you two as acquaintances, she compromised. I'll take it, Naruto cheered as he threw an arm over her shoulders. Her eyes widened at the sudden contact and the speed he did it before they narrowed, and she drove her elbow into his stomach. She took a few steps away from him as he fell on his knees, gasping for breath. Just because I have acknowledged you as an acquaintance does not give you permission to put your hands on me so freely, she said, but if you looked closely you could see a light pink hue on her cheeks due to the unfamiliar action. Laughing at her sister's actions, Omid turned to Sukune, who was also watching the scene in amusement. Those two get along well, don't you think so, Sukune? Omid asked with a smile. I guess so, Sukune said while chuckling as he watched Naruto ask when he would get permission to put his hands on her freely only to receive a fist on top of his head courtesy of Ura. Is it lonely for you too? Omid asked, gaining Sukune's attention. Huh, was his intelligent reply. You and Naruto are the only humans here. It must be lonely for you, she explained. Well, he trailed off. The truth was that he was terrified at the beginning to be the only human at a monster school, but when he found out Naruto was human as well, he felt much better. He believed the blonde when he said he was human, but how did he create that ball of energy to take down Saizo? He made a mental note to ask Naruto later, but right now he had a beautiful pink-haired vampire to talk to. At first I was nervous, but I don't really feel lonely. Not with friends like you guys, he answered honestly, earning a smile from Omid. Good, but if there's anything you need, just ask. I'll do whatever I can, she said before leaning closer. Omid-san? He asked as he shifted uncomfortably. Just when it looked like they were about to kiss, she leaned towards his neck and took a bite as she sucked his blood. Having her fill, she pulled back with a happy blush and smile on her face. After all, your blood is by far the tastiest I've ever had, she said before realization hit Sukune. Ahhhh. You sucked my blood again, he screamed as he clutched his neck and ran around in circles. Sorry, but the aroma of your blood was so intoxicating that I couldn't resist myself, she explained while rubbing the back of her head sheepishly. What am I? Food? He cried as he ran away. Sukune? Omid asked worriedly with a bit of hurt in his eyes. Naruto and Ura stopped their little argument as they watched the scene in front of them. Damn fool has hurt Omid again, Ura muttered in annoyance. She gave him fair warning, but now it looked like she will have to show him his place. Don't worry, Omid-chan. Remember, you're the first vampire he's ever met. You probably just shocked him when you sucked his blood so suddenly, Naruto reasoned as he placed a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. Do you think so? She asked, worried that she scared off her friend. Positive. Now why don't you go find him and talk things out? The blonde suggested. Okay. Thanks for the advice, Naruto, she said with a smile before she ran off to find Sukune. That idiot better be more careful. If he hurts her again, his face will meet the heel of my foot, Ura huffed. Remembering the power that her kicks had, Naruto couldn't help but wince. If Sukune was in the receiving end of one of those, he might actually die. Now, it was just a simple misunderstanding. No need to overreact, he reasoned. Ura looked at him for a moment before sighing. Let's just go to class, she suggested as she began to walk away. As you wish, Ura-chan, Naruto said as he walked by her side. I still do not remember giving you permission to call me that, the silver-haired vampire said, annoyed, while the blonde just chuckled. The two continued their way, with Naruto making a teasing remark while Ura resisted the urge to beat him to the ground when they spotted a crowd. I understand that you are a very intelligent girl. I mean, that is to be expected from somebody who has skipped so many grades, but that does not give you any excuses, a male student said to a younger girl. She had short brown hair, and instead of a normal school uniform, hers had a cloak and witch hat. Class representative? The younger girl asked. A bit of fear could be seen in her eyes. Just look at you. Your outfit is completely against the school dress code, he said as he pushed her. Stop that, she protested, only to be ignored. Seeing this made Naruto's blood boil. Forgetting class, he marched his way over to them. Uzumaki, Ura called out but was ignored. Mildly annoyed at this, she made her way to follow him. On their way there, Naruto and Ura heard some of the onlookers speak. Isn't that the genius? I think so. Looks like she's getting bullied by the class representative Gain. Well, it's understandable. I mean, look at how she dresses. Yay. She's just a witch, so no harm done, right? This comment really pissed off Naruto. He was still a few feet away when a rock flew from the ground and struck the class representative's head, causing him to pause in confusion. How did that happen? Ha. Take that. Serves you right, you jerk, the young girl stated, which only caused the representative's annoyance increase. Damn no good witch. Just looking at you disgusts me, he growled as he lunged forward but stopped when he felt a great amount of pain in his stomach. He looked to see an unfamiliar body standing between him and the witch. The young girl closed her eyes, preparing for the inevitable pain. She waited and waited but still nothing. Taking a chance, she opened her eyes and gasped when she saw a boy guarding her. She couldn't see much since he had his back to her, but she could see his spiky blonde hair. "Are you okay?" he asked gently as he looked over his shoulder, letting her see his blue eyes and whisker-marked cheeks. "Why, yay," she said after taking a deep breath. Someone actually helped her. "Okay, just relax and let me handle this," he said in that same soft tone that caused her to blush. He turned his attention back to the boy in front of him and his eyes hardened. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he asked in a tone so cold everyone took a step back. Even Ura, who was now standing by him, was surprised at this, not expecting Naruto to be able to speak in such a way. What do you mean?" the class representative said, a bit startled at the look in the blonde's eyes. "I mean, what the hell is your problem? Does picking on a younger girl make you feel better about yourself? Are you so pathetic that mocking a young girl gives you some sick pleasure?" he asked angrily. "Young girl? The only thing I see is a filthy witch," he said. The moment he finished his sentence, he received a punch to the jaw that sent him flying. "Who cares if she's a witch? She's still a living being who deserves to be treated with respect," he said through gritted teeth. Both Ura and the young witch watched surprised. The witch because no one defended her in such a way, and Ura because this situation seemed to truly affect Naruto based on the emotions she could see in his eyes. She would have to talk to him about this later. "If I see you messing with her again, I won't hesitate to kill you. Scum like you have no right to live," he said, unleashing a bit of killer intent at him. "Whatever," he scoffed, trying to play it cool, but the fear could be seen. He and his friends left the three of them and the crowd of students who watched the whole thing. Naruto then turned his attention to the crowd. "And you people disgust me," he said, shocking everyone. What do you mean?" one of them asked. "How the hell could you just watch him bully her? Hell, some of you thought it was reasonable?" Naruto said as memories of a young blonde boy standing alone as a group of village mocked and ridiculed him flashed into his mind. Well, she's just a WI, but the student never finished. A kunai flew through the air, cutting his cheek in his sentence. "I'd shut up if I were you, because if that is your only excuse, then by the time I am through with you, you'll be begging for the sweet mercy of death," he said as he glared at the cowering crowd. "It's blind fools like you that are the reason for so much pain in the world. Get out of my sight before I lose control and slaughter each and every one of you," he said, unleashing some killer intent at them. Needless to say, they ran in a panic. Taking a couple of deep breaths to calm himself, Naruto turned around to face the young girl. She took a step back, remembering how he talked to the crowd of students, afraid that he may unleash that fury on her next. "Are you all right?" he asked gently as he crouched down to look at her eye level. "Why, yes. Thank you," she said, seeing that he wouldn't hurt her or anything. "My name's Naruto Uzumaki and this is my friend Ura Akshiya," he said, introducing him and the vampire standing by them. "I am Yukari Sendo," she said politely. She usually didn't act this way around other students, but they didn't look like they would cause any harm, especially Naruto. She heard rumors about him beating Saizo easily and figured he was some type of Neanderthal who only knew how to fight, but here he was standing up for her when no one else would. I think I've heard that name before," Naruto said as he rubbed his chin in thought. "She is rank number in academics," Ura supplied. "A rather impressive feat for someone so young," she added. "Really? Damn, that's amazing." Naruto whistled. No matter what, academics weren't his thing, but he could respect those who excelled in it. Hearing he praised these two were giving her caused Yukari to blush. It's nothing really," she stuttered, earning a scoff from Naruto. "Nothing? Come on, Yukari-chan, be proud of your accomplishment. If I were you, I'd be bragging up a storm," Naruto said. "I never knew you were so humble," Ura said sarcastically. "What can I say? It's part of the Uzumaki charm," Naruto said with a grin. "Uzumaki charm? Would you care to show us this so-called charm, you posses, because I haven't seen any from you yet?" Ura said with a deadpan expression, causing Naruto to crouch on the ground and trace patterns on the floor with a depressing aura spreading over him. "So cruel," he muttered as a sweat drop appeared over the vampire and witch. "Is he always like this?" Yukari asked, pointing at the blonde. "Unfortunately," Ura sighed, rubbing her temple, trying to prevent a headache she knew was coming. "Anyway, why were those guys acting like that?" Naruto asked as Yukari dropped her head. "It's because I am a witch," she said as if it explained everything, and normally it would have to any other monster, but Naruto was not normal. Yeah, I heard people say that, but is that it? He asked, scratching the back of his head. Hearing this caused Yukari to snap her head towards the blonde. What do you mean, is that it? She asked, shocked. No offense, but it seems kind of stupid to treat you like that just 'cause you're a witch, he said with a shrug. It's not surprising you do not, but witches are not exactly the most popular of races, she said before glancing at Yukari. No offense, Yukari, she added after seeing her slumped shoulders. It's okay. I already know how most feel about witches, she said solemnly. What are you guys talking about? Naruto asked, not following along. We witches are considered as half-breeds. We're in the boundary between humans and yokai, Yukari informed. Because they are a bit of both, humans fear them while yokai see them as a disgrace. Ura continued. Hearing this caused Naruto to frown. Yukari-chan, whenever someone messes with you for being a witch, just tell me and I'll teach them a lesson, he said, surprising the witch. What? Why would you help me? She asked, wide-eyed. Both Yukari and Ura watched as a haunted look appeared in Naruto's eyes, as if he was going through a series of memories. You were born a witch. You can't help but be what you were, and because of that people hate you. He started as a sad smile grew on his face. I know what it's like to be hated for doing nothing but being what you are. You do? Yukari asked, shocked. Yeah, I also know what it's like to scream and beg for help only to be ignored, he said while the two girls listened quietly, looking at the multiple emotions in his eyes. I remember the one thing I wanted most was to be acknowledged. Something tells me that you want the same thing. He continued, earning a nod from the witch. Grinning like a fox, Naruto stuck out his hands towards the girl. In that case, I'll acknowledge you. So, what do you say, Yukari-chan? Wanna be friends? He asked cheerfully. Yukari just stared, with her eyes the size of dinner plates, in complete shock. She was silent for a while, which made the blonde nervous. Yukari-chan, it's kind of awkward if you don't say or do something, Naruto said sheepishly. Snapping back to her sense, Yukari ignored the outstretched hand and ran straight into the blonde's chest. She hugged him tight as tears fell from her eyes. Lowering his arm, he rubbed her back gently. Thank you. The witch mumbled. She had a friend. A friend who not only accepted her, but apparently he understood her pain as well. Ura was silent as she watched the scene in front of her. She replayed some of the things Naruto said as well as some of the things she already knew of him. The first thing she knew was that Naruto said he was human, which would mean he lived with other humans. But from what he just said, the people he lived with hated him for being what he was. Why would humans hate someone for being human? But then she remembered how he handled Saizo and that weird ball of energy. No human should be able to do something like that, at least not an ordinary human. He also said that the one thing he wanted was to be acknowledged. He wanted people to pay attention to him, but no one would. He also said people would ignore him when he screamed and begged for help, which she had found very difficult to believe he did such a thing. This meant he had no one to help him. No friends, but what about his family? All these thoughts began to give her a headache. She glanced at the two and saw Naruto say something to elicit a giggle from Yukari. The vampire allowed a small smile to appear on her face. You are a mystery, Naruto Uzumaki, but you are definitely an interesting person. Meanwhile, with Sukune was walking through the forest, letting his mind wander. He thought about his friends here. First was Naruto, who was a human like him, an exceptionally strong human, but human nonetheless. Then there was Ura, the silver-haired vampire. She was a very proud, confident girl, but she seemed to be closer to Naruto than himself. Of course that could be because Naruto refused to let her shy away from them. Finally there was Omid. He couldn't help but blush when thinking of her. She was very cute and much more innocent than her sister, but she had the tendency to suck his blood whenever they were close together. I enjoy spending time with Omid-san, but does she always have to drink my blood? Am I only a source of food to her? Sukune asked himself as he continued to walk through the forest. Someone, please, help, a voice said, interrupting his thoughts. He turned towards the source and blushed at what he saw. A beautiful girl with blue hair and the biggest chest he ever saw was lying on the ground. She's beautiful, he thought. The girl looked up and saw Sukune. I don't feel well, please, can you help me? She asked weakly, snapping the boy out of his trance. Oh, of course. Can you stand? He asked as he helped her to his feet. It hurts, she said, flinching. What's wrong? Sukune asked, concerned. My chest feels like it's about to burst, she said as she pressed her breast against his side. It does look like it could burst at any second. They're so big and soft. He inwardly panicked as his face turned crimson. Sukune, could you look into my eyes? She asked shyly. He did what he was asked and felt his heart skip a few beats. My name is Kurumu Kurono. I hope we can be good friends, she said, but Sukune barely heard her. He felt spellbound while looking into her eyes. Those eyes, amazing. What's wrong with me? Why'd I want to hold her tightly? He asked himself as he felt his body pull closer to her. Like metal to a magnet, he couldn't control himself and hugged her tightly to his body before the two walked back to the school with his arm around her. Unknown to him, Omid was watching the whole thing. Deciding to listen to Naruto's advice, she searched for her friend and was shocked to him with another girl. She felt a pain in her heart when she saw the brown-haired boy hug the strange girl. Was Sukune trying to replace her as a friend because she kept sucking his blood? Unable to stand it, she walked away in the opposite direction. Pretty soon she found herself walking through the hallways alone. I am alone again. Just like before, she thought to herself as she remembered her time at school in the human world. No, this time I don't even have Ura-chan with me, she mentally added as she noticed the absence of her sister. While she was sad about that, she was also happy. She was glad Ura had a friend like Naruto who ignored her stubborn attitude. She was so deep in thought that she didn't notice a pair of students approach her. What's up, Oma-chan? A cheerful voice said, causing her to jump in surprise. Turning around, she saw the faces of a grinning Naruto and Ura, whose eye was twitching badly because of the blonde's arms slung around her shoulder. No matter what she did, Naruto always found a way to annoy her. However, her annoyance vanished when she saw Omid's face. Are you alright, Omid? You seem upset, she asked, concerned. She may act cold-hearted to others, but she cared deeply about her sister. Nothing's wrong, Ura-chan, she said, trying to push her sister's concerns away, but she didn't fool either of them. For some reason I don't believe you. Wanna try again? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, trying to think up a lie but failing. Omid just sighed. It's nothing really, Sukune, he tried to explain but failed. Hearing the human's name caused Ura to frown. What did that fool do his time? She asked, annoyed. Nothing, but, Omid said before she was interrupted. If the rumors are true, then you two are vampires. A voice called out. They looked up to see a blue-haired girl sitting on the stair rail, smiling smugly. She jumped off and landed gracefully, a few feet in front of the trio. You're the girl that was with Sukune earlier, Omid pointed out, surprised. The girl ignored her as she made her way over to them. As she did, the students were making a ruckus. Look at her. Her boobs are huge. To think there was another beauty besides the Akshiya twins. There were other comments that just annoyed Ura to no end while causing Naruto to sweat drop. If he ever made any comments like that in Konoha, he would be dead in no time. Omid, though, seemed oblivious to them, her attention focused solely on the girl who was now in front of them. I am Kurumu Kurono, a succubus, and I have come to defeat you too, she stated smugly. Omid looked confused while Ura looked uninterested. I thought I was against the rules to reveal your true form, Naruto whispered to Ura. It is. She probably thinks so highly about herself that she just doesn't care. Ura shrugged, causing Naruto to smirk. That kinda reminds me of someone else I know, he said, giving her a pointed look, causing her to nudge him with her elbow. I haven't the slightest idea of who you are talking about, she said, causing him to chuckle. Why would you tell us your true form? You're breaking the rules, Omid asked, confused, but Kurumu ignored her. I can't stand it. You two are nothing but eyesores. You're messing with my grand plan, she said, pointing an accusatory finger at the two vampires. Plan? Omid asked. She was still confused about what was going on. Ura, on the other hand, had a tick mark growing on her head. I know you did not just call me an eyesore, you pathetic excuse of a yokai, Ura said through gritted teeth. Her vampire pride would not let her just take that insult. Yes, my plan is to make every male student at the academy become my slave. I call it my Yokai Academy Harem Transformation Plan, she stated proudly. The whole hallway was silent as they stared at her with a deadpan expression. I've heard my fair share of master plans, but this one, wow, This one takes the cake. Naruto muttered to himself. I could care less about your idiotic plan. Ura said with a bored tone, although she inwardly agreed with Naruto. This plan was just, wow. My plan was flawless. I should have had all the guys become a slave to my beauty from the start, but you two have ruined that. The guys at this school are dreaming about you two instead of me, she said, getting in their faces. Getting annoyed, Ura pushed her way. You think I enjoy this? They are nothing but disgusting irritants that cannot keep their filthy thoughts to themselves. Ura shouted, appalled. How could anyone enjoy the perverted comments these fools made about her and her sister? Hearing this, all the guys in the hallway felt an arrow pierce their heart. The goddess they worshipped hated them. Naruto snickered at the looks on their faces. Hearing this, Kurumu turned her attention to the blonde. She walked over to him and looked him straight in the eyes. Once their eyes locked, Naruto felt his heart skip a few beats. I will not lose to you two in a battle of feminine charm, she said while invading Naruto's personal space. Naruto wasn't sure why, but he couldn't look away from her eyes. What the hell? I can't move, he thought to himself as he felt his body freeze. Kurumu pressed her chest against Naruto and gave a seductive smile to the blonde. Ura, for some unknown reason, felt her annoyance spike up. But why should she care if some annoying girl threw her body at the blonde? You're Naruto Uzumaki, right? Rumors say that you're the only student that Ura talks to besides her sister, she said before turning to the twins. So in order to prove my superiority to you two, I have decided to steal Naruto and Sukune from you, she declared, surprising the two girls. What? Leave Sukune out of this, Omid said, shocked. What's wrong with this girl? Ura, on the other hand, remained silent. She was trying to rack her brain, thinking about everything she knew about succubus. Something was wrong because Naruto was unusually quiet. Why should I? After all, you're only using him as a food source, and all Ura does is ignore Naruto, she accused as she leaned more into his body. That's not true. Sukune is my friend, Omid protested. While this was going on, Naruto was still having an internal struggle. Why the hell can't I move? He asked himself. Ever since he looked into Kurumu's eyes, his body froze. Wait a minute, her eyes. Is she behind this? He asked himself. About time you figured it out, Kit, a demonic voice answered. Kurama, what the hell's going on? You're being controlled. How? The girl. When you looked into her eyes, she used some kind of genjutsu or something to control you, the fox explained. Damn it. Think you can help me out? He asked, hoping to break free before he did something stupid. If you let me gain control for a while, then yay, I can definitely do something, Kurama said with a grin. Unaware of the internal conversation going in Naruto's head, Kurumu stood confidently. She was pleased with herself when she saw the panicked look of Omid and the annoyed one of Ura. Now it was time for her next step of her plan, to make Naruto hers. Naruto, why do you continue to hang out with someone like Ura? If you were with me, I promise that I won't ignore you, she said before leaning towards his ear and whispered. If you were with me, I can promise you, and I can have some real fun. Now all I have to do is kiss him and he's mine, Kurumu thought triumphantly as she leaned in closer to Hai. Their lips were about to meet when her body froze and she felt cold steel pressed against her neck. Ura, who was watching this, was not happy, but she didn't understand why. Seeing the succubus about to kiss Naruto angered her for some unknown reason. Perhaps she had feeling for the blonde. She scoffed and immediately threw that idea out of her head. That was just not possible. The only logical conclusion was that the succubus insulted her and her vampire pride would not allow her to just leave it like that. Yes, that had to be the reason. She was about to give the girl a piece of her mind when she saw Naruto raise a kunai and held it to her neck. The thing that shocked her and everyone else who was watching, though, was his face. His blue eyes were gone, replaced with red slitted eyes. His whisker marks became darker and his teeth became sharper like canines. Judging by the look on his face as he stared at Kurumu, he was not happy. Impossible. He broke through my charm. Wait, those eyes, is he a vampire? Kurumu thought frantically. Listen, girl. I don't know who you think you are, but if you try that little stunt on the kid again, I will end you, he said with a dark edge that sent shivers down everyone's spine. He pushed Kurumu away, causing her to fall on the ground. His features returned to normal as he stared at her coldly. Like I said, don't try that weird ass eye trick on me again or you'll pay. He growled out in his normal voice, but it was still laced with anger. "Are you a vampire too?" Kurumu asked shakily as she stood back on her feet. Hearing this, Naruto blinked a couple of times before grinning. "Nope," he simply said. Ura just watched him deep in thought. He is definitely not a vampire despite his eyes. His scent is that of a human, but how can he do all that? And what did he mean, Kit? She thought to herself. One thing for sure was that she and Naruto were going to have a chat very soon. "Omate-san." A voice called out. They turned to see Sukune walking towards them. Omate gasped when she remembered he was Kurumu's other target. "Sukune. Oh no, I have to warn him," she thought to herself. "There you are. I was looking everywhere for you," he said as he smiled at the pink-haired girl. Seeing him, Kurumu decided to act fast. "I wanted to Apollo," he started when he was interrupted by a body crashing into him. "Sukune-kun." Kurumu cheered as she pressed her hest against him. "Kei Kurumu-san?" Sukune asked, shocked as his face began to glow a bright red. Seeing this, Omate felt her eye twitch in a similar fashion as her sister when a certain blonde annoys her. "Wait a minute. I came to talk to Omate-san," he panicked. "Sukune, get away from her. You're being tricked. She's not really your friend," Omate pleaded. "How awful. How can you say such cruel things about me?" she said overdramatically as she leaned into Sukune some more. "I don't know why my charm failed against Naruto, but it should work against Sukune," she thought as their eyes locked. Once again Sukune felt his heart skip a few beats. This weird feeling again. What's going on? Sukune thought to himself. There is something going on and I know the succubus is behind it, but what? Ura thought to herself as she watched the scene in front of her. "Sukune, please get away from her. She's going to eat you or something. She's just using you," Omate said, trying to help her friends. "Really, but aren't you the one who's just using me to suck my blood?" Sukune countered, his eyes glazed over. Hearing this, Omate felt like she was just slapped in the face. Ura glared at the two as she saw her sister's pained expression. "That's not," she started as tears formed in her eyes. Unable to take it, she let the tears fall freely as she ran away. "You two will pay for what you have done," Ura said. Kurumu couldn't help but gulp at the silver-haired vampire's angry glare. "Relax, Ura-chan, we can take care of those two later, but we should check on Omate-chan first," Naruto told her. Nodding, the two made their way to follow the upset vampire, but Naruto spared one more glance at Kurumu. "You made a great mistake, Kurumu," he said coldly. Kurumu tried to hide it, but she was frightened. No boy had ever spoken to her like that and it scared her. "You hurt my friend. Congratulations, that just made me your enemy," he continued before he and Ura made their way to find Omate. Kurumu felt like she made a grave error. Something told her that she didn't want Naruto as an enemy. "Hey Kurama," Naruto called out in his mind. "What is it, Kit? Remember earlier today when I said this school was peaceful?" "Yay. What about it? I was dead wrong," Naruto said dryly, causing the fox to laugh. "Kit, there's no such thing as peaceful with you around," the fox said between laughs. "Tell me about it." Naruto sighed as he continued his search for Omate. Omate sat on a set of stairs thinking about what transpired today. She had a bit of a misunderstanding with Sukune. She went to search for him only to see him with a blue-haired girl. Later on, said girl accuses her of using Sukune and then the final nail in the coffin. Sukune agreed with her. Unable to take it, she ran away with tears in her eyes. Does Sukune really believe that I am only using him to suck his blood? She asked herself as she wiped the tears from her eyes. It's not true, she muttered to herself, upset. How could Kurumu accuse her of doing something like that when she's doing the same thing? Omate, a voice from behind called. Turning her head, the pink-haired vampire turned to see Ura and Naruto walking towards her. Ura took a seat by her sister while Naruto leaned against the rail with his arms crossed. What are you two doing here? She asked, trying to hide her inner turmoil to no avail. We came to check on you, Omate-chan, Naruto said, watching the girl. I am okay. She tried to reassure them, but Omate was never good at hiding her emotions, especially from her sister. Don't lie to me, Omate. I saw how those words affected you. Those two will pay for hurting you, Ura said as she placed a comforting hand on Omate's shoulder. You don't have to do anything, Ura-chan. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, I just didn't know if that's how Sukune felt about me. Omid reasoned. Although she was hurt, she didn't want her sister to get into a fight with anyone, but Ura didn't seem to agree. Even so, that does not excuse them. Ura protested. She understood that her sister did not like confrontations, but right now she did not care. The succubus would pay for her actions and accusations, and Sukune, Ura was definitely going to show him his place. Ura-chan, I know you're only looking out for me, but you can't beat up people for expressing themselves. I guess it was my fault. I kept drinking Sukune's blood after all. No wonder he thinks I am using him. Omid said with a sad look in her eyes. That might not be the case. Naruto said with a thoughtful expression on his face, gaining the attention from the two girls. What do you mean? Omid asked, confused, while Ura raised an elegant eyebrow, silently asking him to explain. Well, I've been thinking, he said, but was interrupted. Shocking. I thought you were incapable of thinking. Ura scoffed while crossing her arms, causing Naruto to face fault. Despite the events from earlier, Omid couldn't help but giggle at their actions. I am going to pretend I didn't hear that. Anyway, like I was saying, something about this situation is a bit off, he explained. What do you mean? Omid asked. Remember earlier when Kurumu was talking to me? Yes, so? Ura asked, wondering where he was going with his. Hopefully it could jog her memory, because she knew there was something about the succubus that she was missing, something important. Well, while she was talking to me, our eyes locked. After that I felt weird. I just suddenly blanked out. I was aware of my actions, but it was like my body had a mind of its own. He explained, scratching the back of his head thoughtfully. That is weird. Omid agreed with a confused frown. I know. What Sukune said to you was something he wouldn't normally say, so maybe what happened to me happened to him. Naruto said, earning a nod from Omid while Ura remained silent. That might be it. She agreed, feeling a sense of hope. Perhaps something was wrong and Sukune really does think of her as a real friend. Of course. Ura suddenly said, gaining the attention of the other two. Did you figure something out, Ura-chan? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. How could I have been so foolish? Now everything makes sense, she chastised herself, ignoring the blonde. I am glad everything makes sense to you, but we're still in the dark, Naruto said, pointing to Omid and himself. What is it, Ura-chan? Omid asked, confused. Charm was the only thing she said, earning confused looks from the other two. Charm? Naruto asked, not getting what she was saying. Yes, it is a form of sorcery that can turn the opposite sex into the user's slave, she elaborated. What? Omid asked, shocked. She did not like where this was going. I knew there was something about the succubus that I was forgetting. The succubus are a race that seduces males by using charm, she said. So Sukune is under Kurumu's charm? Omid asked. From what Naruto has said, I am positive. Ura answered before looking at the blonde. Speaking of which, exactly how did you break out of her charm? I don't know. I guess my will was just stronger, Naruto said nervously. He didn't know how to explain how Kurama broke the charm, and something told him that saying the giant demon fox that lives inside of me took control of my body to break free would take too long to explain. Ura looked at him, obviously not believing his answer, but she was going to let it slide, for now. Anyway, if we wish to rescue Sukune, we must hurry. A male who receives a kiss from a succubus will become their slave for all eternity. Ura explained, causing them to go wide-eyed. Oh no, Sukune's in trouble, Omid shouted as she stood on her feet. Damn it. We better hurry before it's too late and he becomes her slave, Naruto said as they ran off, hoping to save their friend. Infirmary. Sukune was currently sitting on a chair near the side of Kurumu, who was sitting on one of the hospital beds. Both of them were silent, deep in thoughts about what transpired earlier today in the hallways. Yahoo! I did it! I can't believe I finally did it! I made that annoying Omid cry. Kurumu cheered in her head while anime tears of happiness fell out of her eyes. Sukune, on the other hand, was having very different thoughts. I can't believe I said that to Omid-san. What's wrong with me? He thought dejectedly as his mind replayed the earlier events. An image of Omid crying came to his mind and he felt an immense feeling of guilt. I have to apologize and hope she forgives me, he decided before an image of a glaring Ura appeared next, causing him to shiver. If not, then Ura-san will definitely kill me, he added as an afterthought. Deep in his thought he did not notice Kurumu looking at him with a small blush on her face. Now all that's left is to make him my slave, then I will utterly defeat Omet. Then I can work on stealing Naruto from Ura. She thought smugly before she frowned as she remembered the way Naruto broke free from her charm. Then she felt a chill go down her spine when she remembered the last words he said before he followed the Akshiya twins. "You hurt my friend, congratulations, that just made me your enemy." Something told her that she did not want to have Naruto as an enemy. She shook her head to get rid of those thoughts. She would cross that bridge when the time came, but right now she had other things to focus on. With that decided, she turned towards the brown-haired boy who remained silent this while time. "Sukune-kun," she said, gaining the boy's attention. Hearing his name, Sukune looked up only to find his vision blocked and it became difficult to breathe. Wondering what was happening, he panicked when he realized Kurumu buried his face in her breasts. "Oh God, what's happening? I just get in a fight with Omet-san. Piss off Ura-san, and now this. Why does the universe hate me?" he cried in his head as he struggled for breath. "You're sad, right?" Kurumu asked gently as she rubbed his head comfortably. "Relax and let Kurumu make it all better. I promise to take good care of you." Suddenly she pushed him gently but hard enough to make him fall on the hospital bed. His face turned bright red when she climbed on top of him until she was straddling him. "Kurumu-san, what are you doing?" he asked nervously as he tried to back away from her but was unsuccessful. He looked up and their eyes locked. Once again he felt his heart skip a few beats and found it impossible to think or speak. "How strange, my heart is racing. That's never happened before," Kurumu mused as she leaned in closer to Sukune. "Oh well, it doesn't matter. Once we kiss, my charm will control him completely and I'll beat Omet, then I'll focus on Naruto and get back at Ura." Wait. Sukune struggled to say as their lips drew closer together. He didn't know what was happening. He only met this girl today and they were about to kiss. Normally he would thank the heavens for this opportunity, but the image of a pink-haired vampire came to mind. With all the strength he had, Sukune grabbed Kurumu's shoulders and pulled her away before their lips connected. "What the?" Kurumu muttered, shocked. 1 minute she was about to kiss the boy in front of her and then the next she was being hugged by him. "I am sorry, but I can't kiss you," Sukune said, surprising her since he appeared to have broken free from her charm. "Why?" "Because there is someone who I don't want to betray," he answered honestly, causing her eyes to widen before they narrowed in anger. "Even when I made it virtually impossible for him to resist me, he was able to avoid kissing me, all because of that damned pink-haired bitch." She fumed in her mind. She was barely able to control her rage. How was this possible? How could he refuse her like this? Why do you hate me so much?" she asked quietly. "What do you mean? I don't hate you," Sukune asked, confused but was pushed away by Kurumu. "Is she so much better than me?" she asked through gritted teeth. "After everything I did, you still refuse me?" she continued as a pair of bat wings sprouted from her back. A devil-like tail appeared behind her and her nails grew longer and sharper, causing Sukune to panic. "Kurumu, what's going on?" he asked in a panicked tone as he pointed at her wings, but she ignored him. "I have never lost before, but those stupid vampires come out of nowhere and steal the spotlight from me," she thought furiously before glaring at the frightened human. "Now I am pissed," she shouted in anger. "First Naruto and now you, all because of those two. I am going to destroy everything that has anything to do with them," she shouted before aiming her claws at Sukune. "Oh God. I am going to die," Sukune shouted in fear. He closed his eyes waiting for his inevitable end when the door suddenly opened. Opening his eyes, Sukune was surprised to see a flash of pink that charged at Kurumu. "Stop it!" Omet shouted, making her way towards the succubus in a desperate attempt to stop her. Ura and Naruto entered the room after her. "Omet-san?" Sukune asked, surprised. He thought that she would never speak to him again after hurting her earlier. "Great. What are you two doing here?" Kurumu asked in annoyance at seeing the vampires interrupting her. Omet looked at her and glared. "Don't you dare hurt Sukune," she shouted before pushing her away. "What the?" Kurumu exclaimed as she was not expecting that, was caught off guard and was sent flying out one of the infirmary windows, surprising everyone but Ura. "Underestimating a vampire's strength, a very bad mistake," she said with a smirk. "Damn, didn't think Omet-chan had it in her." Naruto whistled as he watched the scene unfold. "You have to run while you can, Sukune, before it's too late." Omid pleaded as the brown-haired boy came back to his senses. Hold on a minute. I have no clue what's going on, can someone please explain? He asked frantically. I am sorry that you got sucked into this, Sukune. That girl is some reason she wants revenge on Ura-chan and so she targeted you and Naruto. Omid explained solemnly, feeling that this was all her fault. What, I almost betrayed Omid-san all because of some kind of revenge, he thought gravely. Seeing the look on his face, Ura scoffed. Enough of your pity party. We have more important things to deal with, she said while pointing towards the window. They turned to see a fuming Kurumu flying in the air. So that's the strength of a vampire, huh? Looks like I'll have to keep an eye on you, she said, glaring at Omid. Why don't you come out here so I can kill you too? She shouted as she tried to goad the twins. The fool wishes to fight, then so be it, Ura stated with a smirk. She was about to head out but Omid stopped her. Ura-chan, let me fight her instead, she asked, surprising everyone. I am afraid I can't do that, Omid, Ura said after recovering from her shock. Why not? Even though you are a vampire, your powers are still sealed. It would be too dangerous for you to fight, she said, crossing her arms. But you're going to fight, she protested. Sukune was her friend and she wanted to fight for him instead of being protected for once. That may be true, but you have never enjoyed fighting. Out of the two of us I am the most trained. Even with my powers sealed I should be able to handle he succubus. Ura explained coolly. Stop talking like I am not even here, Kurumu shouted as she flew back into the room. She grabbed Omid's arm and threw her towards the window. Unfortunately for Sukune, he was between the two and was sent flying when Omid's body crashed into him. The two fell out of the window with Omid landing on top of Sukune. Are you alright, Omid-san? Sukune asked as he tried to get up. Finally. Now I'll make you pay, Kurumu said as she flew towards them. Ura and Naruto ran towards the window to see what was happening. If you lay one finger on her succubus I will end your pathetic life, Ura threatened, but it fell on deaf ears. As Kurumu was about to make her descent to finish of the duo, a bright light surrounded Omid. Sukune looked confused until he felt something in his hand. Glancing at it he saw that he was holding a rosario. More specifically, he was holding the rosario that was usually found around Omid's neck. He must have taken it off by mistake during their fall. As the bright light faded, Naruto and Sukune were surprised at Omid's new appearance. Her usual pink hair had a silver streak on the left side. Her eyes changed from green to red, although it was not as dark as her sister's eyes, and her pupils became slits. Now in her new form she stood up and looked defiantly at Kurumu. The succubus though was frozen in place, shocked. The sudden burst of strength caught her off guard. She quickly recovered and hardened her eyes as she glared at the vampire. So you have a new hairdo, big deal, she said, not caring. She has heard rumors about the might vampire race, but she just didn't care right now. Her pride took too many hits from the twins and she couldn't let them get away with that. Omid stood in front of Sukune protectively with a determined look in her eyes. You may think that I am using Sukune, but it's not true. Sukune and Naruto are the first true friends that my sister and I have ever made. You tried to use them to get back at us for some petty reason, but I won't let you. I will fight for my friends, she shouted as Kurumu flew down towards her. She quickly grabbed Sukune's arm and threw him out of harm's way. Unfortunately, she forgot to take her vampire strength into account, resulting in Sukune being wedged into a crater his body made when he hit a wall. Kurumu went for a slash, but Omid was able to duck out of the way. As a counter-attack, she aimed a kick at Kurumu's jaw, but the succubus used her flight advantage by flying out of range. Now open, Omid had no chance to avoid the incoming kick that Kurumu sent her way. As a follow-up, she grabbed Omid's arm and flew into the air. She spun a few times before launching the vampire, causing her to crash into the ground, the momentum from the spinning increasing the damage done. If that's all you have, Akshiya, then I am disappointed, Kurumu taunted, but Omid ignored it as she stood back on her feet. Frowning, Kurumu charged again, going for a high-speed dive attack, planning to end it now. What she didn't expect was for Omid to sidestep away at the last second before delivering a powerful kick, sending her crashing into a nearby tree. It didn't end there though. Omid ran towards her, planning on hitting a strong punch, but Kurumu was able to step out of the way. The punch ended up hitting the tree, breaking it in half. Wow, she got a mean right arm, Naruto commented while Sukune could only gape. The sweet and innocent Omid, who looked like she couldn't harm a fly, was kicking ass. I suppose, but if she would just let me handle his, then we could be done now, Ura complained. Maybe, but it's good to let you sister fight her own battles, Naruto said as Kurumu tried to slash Omid only to have the vampire catch her wrist, halting her attack. Shifting her body, Omid threw the girl over her shoulder, but Kurumu was able to catch herself in midair before she received any more damage. Okay, you're better than I thought, but let's see how you like this, she shouted as she began to increase her flight speed until Omid was barely able to see her. Suddenly a slash mark was made on the ground right next to Omid. Then out of nowhere she feels a sting on her shoulder and looks to see that there is a cut on her blazer. The slashes around her increase until it looks like she is stuck in a whirlwind as Kurumu uses her like a scratching post. Omid-san! Sukune cried out in worry as he helplessly watches his friend. Don't worry, Sukune, I am all right, she reassures, though she winces when she receives another slash. Quit acting all high and mighty. Looks like the mighty vampire race is all talk if this is what you're capable of, Kurumu mocked. Ura was losing her temper as she watched her sister getting hurt while some fool insulted her race. If she could remove her seal, then she could make quick work, but unfortunately that is impossible until her eyes widened in realization. During the fight with Saizo, Naruto was able to remove her Rosario easily. Turning towards the blonde, she grabbed his hand and hooked it around her Rosario. Once it was in place, she pulled his wrist, causing the Rosario to come off in the process. Her Yuki was unleashed until she was surrounded by a demonic aura. Her pupils turned into slits and her red eyes seemed to have glow. Her fangs became more pronounced as her nails became more claw-like. The sudden burst in Yuki was able to draw the attention of Kurumu, who stopped her assault to investigate. Her eyes widened when she saw that Ura was the source of Yuki. This incredible energy, is this the real strength of a vampire? She asked herself in disbelief. The amount of Yuki that was flooding the area was astonishing. I may not be as strong as Ura-chan, but don't turn your back on me, a voice called out. Kurumu turned around in time to meet the end of a right hook that sent her flying towards Ura, courtesy of Omid. Seeing this, Ura smirked before delivering a backhanded strike, tossing Kurumu away as if she were nothing more than a pesky mosquito. Naruto, should you do something? 2-on-1 seems a bit like overkill to me, Sukune asked. True, he was upset that Kurumu was using him to hurt Omid, but having to fight two vampires, especially Ura, seemed a bit too much. Naruto just looked at Sukune like he was insane. Listen well, Sukune, one of the most dangerous things a man can do is get involved in a fight between women, Naruto said sagely. Don't you think you are exaggerating a little? Sukune asked with a sweat drop, but Naruto only shook his head. He knew from experience dealing with women like Tsunade and Sakura that girls can be some of the most frightening creatures in the world. Seeing Ura preparing to fight only confirmed it. Believe what you want, Sukune, but I would like to live to see another day, he said so seriously that Sukune began to rethink his earlier words. Maybe Naruto was right. Meanwhile, Kurumu stood back on her feet and glared hatefully at the two vampires. They have proved to be a more difficult obstacle to pass than she originally thought, but it didn't matter. She couldn't afford to lose. What's the matter, succubus? Are you already tired? Ura asked mockingly, which only angered her more. Don't mess with me. I can't lose, there's too much at stake, she said, getting a confused look from everyone. How is being the school's idol considered too much at stake? Naruto asked, not following, earning a scoff from Kurumu. This school means nothing to me. The only thing that matters is finding my destined one, she explained. What's that? The blonde asked while scratching the back of his head. I have no idea. Sukune frowned. Whatever it was sounded very important to Kurumu. The succubus find their destined one among the men we tempt. In other words, he is our soulmate. In order to prevent our species from dying out, we must find our destined one, she said as she flew high into the air. You two are getting in my way and I can't let that happen, she shouted before she drove straight at them, hoping for a high-speed collision. Foolish girl, your attack is too straightforward. It might be effective if I couldn't keep up with your speed. Too bad for you that is not the case here, Ura said before she appeared behind a surprised Kurumu and grabbed her tail. You not only bared your fangs against me but also my sister. You should know your place, she continued as she swung her tail, without releasing her grip, slamming Kurumu to the ground hard enough to create a crater. She picked Kurumu up by her neck before delivering a roundhouse kick that sucked the air out of the succubus lungs before she fell to the ground. What's the matter? I thought I was in your way. Weren't you going to get rid of me? After all, I am nothing but an eyesore, right? Ura taunted as she walked towards her fallen foe, but Sukune appeared between the two, surprising everyone, especially the succubus. What are you doing, Sukune? Ura asked angrily. I am sorry, Ura-san, but I think you should stop, Sukune said, shocking everyone. Sukune, what are you doing? She tricked you and then tried to kill you, Omid asked, confused at his actions. Step aside or else, Ura warned with narrowed eyes. You've done enough, the human said sternly as he tried to put on a brave front, but on the inside he was panicking like crazy. I know what she did was wrong, but I don't think Kurumu-san would intentionally hurt us because of a simple grudge. He finished with a smile that caused Omid and Kurumu to blush. Ura, on the other hand, looked livid. Do not think that you can order me around, she said angrily, causing Sukune to take a step back. He was hoping his reasons would be able to convince her, but it looks like it didn't. And now come on, Ura-san, I am sure that we can work things out peacefully. I think that Kurumu-san has a good heart, just like you and Omid-san, Sukune said nervously while Kurumu watched silently. After everything I put him through, he's actually defending me, she thought with a blush. I am not like my sister. She may be forgiving, but I most certainly am not, Ura stated before she disappeared and reappeared behind the human. Kurumu looked at her fearfully, unable to draw any more strength to even attempt to defend herself. This whole time you have constantly insulted my race, my sister and myself. Do not think that I will tolerate such behavior. When I am through with you, you will never be able to speak to me in such a manner again, Ura said coldly with a dark smirk as she stood in front of the fallen girl. Ura raised her leg in preparation for a vicious axe kick while Kurumu closed her eyes in anticipation, but the attack never hit. She opened her eyes to see another body between the two. Naruto was on one knee, crouched down between the two. His blonde hair was shadowing his eyes as he blocked Ura's kick with the back of his right arm. All in all, he looked pretty cool. Oh Kami. That fucking hurt like hell, he cried out. Or at least he would have looked cool if he didn't fall on his back clutching his arm, thrashing his legs wildly as he howled in pain with anime tears falling out of his eyes. Seeing him in such a state caused everyone to sweat drop despite the serious situation. How was he able to block my kick? That should be impossible for a human, Ura thought curiously. What do you think you are doing, Uzumaki? She asked with a glare. After recovering from the pain, Naruto stood on his feet and looked at Ura without an ounce of fear. Sorry Ura-chan, but I am afraid I agree with Sukune, he said with a grin. Oh really, please tell me why I should spare her, she said, crossing her arms, looking at him with a stern expression. Naruto tapped his chin in thought before shrugging. Well, I could say that I agree with Sukune, but seeing as how that failed the first time, it probably wouldn't work, he said. You're right, it wouldn't, she agreed, waiting for him to make his point. I could say that your sister looks like she agrees with Sukune, but that might not work either, he pointed out, causing her to nod with a frown. Yes, like I said earlier, I am not as forgiving as Omid. Do you have another reason, or are you just wasting time? She asked with a raised eyebrow. Grinning like a fox, he walked close to Ura until his mouth was right next to her ear. Unused to the close proximity, Ura blushed but did her best to hide it. Then how about this one? Let her go and she will continue to live, but the memory of how you could have ended her without trying will be stuck with her forever. She will know firsthand that if she ever did anything to you, you could end her easily, he whispered. While he didn't like the idea of Kurumu living in fear, he had to play with the hand dealt to him, and he felt that this reason would definitely appease Ura. Ura listened to his words and a fanged grin found its way on her face. She took a step away from the blonde and glanced at the confused and frightened succubus. Yes, she found that she rather liked Naruto's idea. I will spare you this once, but make sure that you know your place. Do not even think about speaking to me like that again, she warned, surprising the other three. What? She asked, surprised. You heard me. I will not repeat myself, Ura said as she turned away. Thank you, Ura-san, Sukune said gratefully, only to receive a glare that caused him to shiver. Do not think I did this for you, Sukune. You are on thin ice with me. The next time you try to tell me what to do and you will meet the end of my foot, she threatened. Sukune nodded vigorously, but Omid watched her sister silently. She knew Ura could be stubborn, and once she made up her mind it was nearly impossible for you to change it. She looked at Naruto, who handed Ura's Rosario back, and smiled. Looks like Naruto knew how to deal with her stubborn sister, and for that she was glad. Ura grabbed her Rosario from Naruto while Omid took hers from Sukune. The two vampires put them back on and their vampire features disappeared. Like I said, succubus, I will spare you once. Do not waste this chance, Ura said as she walked away with the others following behind her. Next day I just wanted to apologize again for my behavior, Sukune said again, earning a smile from Omid. It's okay Sukune, and I should apologize for sucking your blood so much, she said, bowing her head. Everyone has made up, I am so happy, Naruto said as he wiped away an imaginary tear from his eye, causing Ura to roll her own. As always, your theatrics are amusing, but it is too early for me to deal with them, Ura said, earning a chuckle from the blonde. Okay then, I'll save the rest for later, he said with a grin. Oh joy, I can hardly wait, she replied sarcastically. Good morning. A cheerful voice interrupted. They turned to see a smiling Kurumu approaching them. Kurumu-chan, what are you doing here? Omid asked warily. Sukune looked nervous, remembering the events of the previous day. Naruto looked bored, not really caring, and Ura simply looked pissed. Kurumu saw the look Ura was giving her and turned away timidly, causing the vampire to smirk in satisfaction. It looks like she remembered the little lesson that she taught her. I baked you some cookies, Sukune-kun, she said with a smile. Why me? Sukune asked, confused, as he accepted the box. Remember when I said I was looking for my destined one? She asked with a blush. Yeah, Sukune said uncertainly while Omid frowned in confusion. Ura rolled her eyes at them, not really caring, but Naruto had a smirk on his face. I have a feeling that this will be good, he thought while watching things transpire. I decided that it's going to be you, she stated, shocking everyone. What? Sukune shouted in shock. The way you defended me, it was just amazing, she said dreamily before locking eyes with Omid. I will not lose him to you, she declared, earning a hard look from the pinkette. Sukune had a feeling that trouble could happen, so he did the only logical thing he could think of. He ran away from the two girls, wondering what he did to deserve this. Sukune, where are you going? Do something about this, Omid shouted as she chased after him. Sukune, come back. When will we get married? Kurumu asked as she also gave chase to the fleeing human. Unable to take it, Naruto began to laugh at the poor boy's misfortune while Ura sighed in annoyance. Does this mean I will have to deal with her presence on a daily occasion? She asked, hoping for a negative response. Don't think so, but look on the bright side, Naruto said as he slung an arm over her shoulders. Ura, who was used to this, ignored it and glanced at the blonde. And that would be? She asked curiously, doubting there would be a bright side. We get to watch them drive poor Sukune crazy, he answered with a grin, causing Ura to smirk. Well, that does sound amusing, she said as the two of them headed for class to start the day. As you know, the Academy's goal is to teach you how to better adapt to human society. Because of that, you will all be participating in club activities. After all, what better way to fit in with humans than by doing human-made activities? Nekonom announced. Club activities. I wonder what kind of clubs are here? Sukune thought to himself. Suddenly images depicting the different kind of clubs that a monster school could have flashed through his mind, causing him to shiver. Please, if there's a god out there, there will be something normal and not dangerous for me to join, the human thought nervously. Because of this, you will spend the school day looking for a club that interests you the most. So go out and find a club that you would like to join. Also, don't forget to check out the newspaper club. I am the advisor, Nekonom said as the students began to leave the room in search of a club. Sukune, won't this be fun? Omid asked as she reached her human friend with Ura by her side. I am sure it will be, Omid-san, Sukune answered. This seems like a complete waste of time if you ask me, Ura said with a roll of her eyes. Oh come on, Ura-chan. I am sure that this will be a lot of fun, Omid said brightly. You never know, Ura-san. You might just find something you like, Sukune pointed out. TCH. I highly doubt it, Ura said as she crossed her arms looking bored. She looked around and noticed someone missing from their little group. Where is Uzumaki? She asked. She wasn't really paying much attention during homeroom, so she did not notice Naruto's absence until now. Naruto. He never showed up to homeroom. I am not sure why though, Sukune answered. Is that why you don't want to look at the clubs? Because you miss Naruto? Omid asked innocently but laughed inwardly when she saw her sister blush. Of course not. I just find it unfair that he gets to avoid this while I have to suffer, Ura denied. She did not know why her sister would ask that. How could she miss the blonde? Maybe miss that he always finds a way to annoy me, she mentally scoffed. Well, we should just look around and see if we can find anything interesting. Maybe we'll see Naruto around, and if not, well, go look for him, Sukune suggested. Alright then, let's go. Omid cheered as she grabbed Sukune's arm and dragged him out of the classroom, with Ura reluctantly following them. With Naruto, oh man, I can't believe I overslept. Why didn't you wake me up, Kurama? Naruto cried as he ran towards the school, uniform disheveled. Are you kidding me? I did try, but you wouldn't budge. I don't know what the hell you were dreaming, but it must have been pretty damn good if you could sleep through me yelling in your mind. The demon fox said through their mental link. It was a pretty good dream. I was still a shinobi, but instead of getting paid with money I got paid with ramen. Naruto said with a bit of drool escaping from his mouth. Only you would want to live in a world where their form of currency is ramen. Kurama deadpanned. Sometimes he just couldn't believe his container. Whatever, you just don't understand the joy that ramen can bring, Naruto said as he reached his homeroom door. Sorry I am late, Naruto immediately said as he bowed to his teacher. Naruto-san. What are you doing here? He heard his teacher ask in a confused tone. He looked up to see that he and Nekonomiya were the only ones in the classroom. Where is everyone? Is it the weekend? Naruto asked, wondering why the classroom was empty. No, today the students are walking around the campus looking for a club to join, Nekonomiya explained. Oh. Sorry about rushing in then. Guess I'll go look around, Naruto said as he was about to leave, but Nekonomiya grabbed his arm, stopping him from leaving. Before you leave, would you like to learn about the newspaper club? She asked with a smile. No one has visited her about her club yet, and although Naruto came here by accident, she would take what she could get. Newspaper club? He repeated, looking at her curiously. Yes, you would write about different things going on at the school. It involves interviewing and investigating different people and events, she explained. Naruto thought about it, and if he were honest, it wasn't entirely interested. Nothing against the teacher, but he always preferred to do something that involved more action. When he was about to gently turn down her offer, he paused. By investigating and interviewing for the club, along with a little stealth on his part, meant he might be able to find some good blackmail material on others. It also meant he could walk around the school and learn about its layouts for pranks without raising suspicion. It may not have much action, but there was definitely some potential for some fun. Plus, the newspaper club might be a good way to gain information, and in the ninja world, information was the most dangerous weapon anyone could ever wield when used properly. You know what, sensei, I think I will join, Naruto said with a fox-like grin. Really? That's great, she cheered. Our first meeting will be tomorrow after school. Got it. Would you mind if I walk around just to look at some of the clubs? He asked. He made his choice and he would keep his word, but he was still curious about what other clubs that could be around. Oh no, go right ahead, and if you see anyone who might be interested, see if they'll join, she said with a smile, happy that someone has finally joined her club. No problem, sensei, Naruto said as he left the classroom. He walked down the hall and was surprised to see how lively it was. There were booths for the different clubs, and judging by the amount of different booths, there was a club for just about everything. I wonder what the others are doing, Naruto mused to himself until he heard the sound of a girl screaming. He looked around and saw a familiar girl in a witch hat running away from a group of students. Stay away from me, you weirdos, Yukari shouted as she tried to get away from them. Please don't run away from us, Yukari-san, one of the students shouted. All we want is to offer you an invitation to join our club, another student added. Please join us, a third student cried, but Yukari paid no attention to it. Stop following me, she shouted, desperate to get away. She looked around and saw a familiar head of blonde hair. Naruto, please help me, she cried as she ran towards him. What's going on, Yukari-chan? Naruto asked, confused as the little witch hid behind his leg. Naruto, please help. Make them go away, she pleaded as she pointed towards the group of students who were now standing in front of them. Excuse us, but could you please step aside? We need to speak with Yukari-san, one of the students asked. Just what are you going to talk to her about? Naruto asked with a raised brow. We are just trying to convince her to join our club, another student explained. Judging by the way she ran away from you, I am wondering what kind of club it is. Naruto responded as he crossed his arms over his chest. It's a lolicon club, Yukari shouted as she pointed an accusing finger at the group. Hearing this caused Naruto's eye to twitch as he stared at the group of students who looked like a couple of kids who got caught stealing from the cookie jar. Is that true? He asked deadpanned. Well, we wouldn't exactly use that word, one of the students said nervously as the twitch on Naruto's eye increased. Get the fuck away from her, he shouted, scaring the group who ran away from the blonde. After all, they heard rumors that he took on Saizo and they did not want to get on his bad side. Thank you, Yukari said as she released a sigh of relief. Don't mention it, Yukari-chan, Naruto said with a grin. Find any club to join yet? No, I am still looking. What about you? The witch asked as the two of them walked through the crowd of students. I just joined the newspaper club, but I decided to look around a bit, Naruto answered as he rested his hands behind his head. Newspaper club, huh? That sounds interesting. Maybe I'll join if I can't anything else, Yukari said as she tapped a finger to her chin in thought. The two of them continued to walk around making some small talk until Yukari saw something that caught her eye. Hey Naruto, I am going to go over there for a while, okay? She said as she pointed towards a sign that said Magic Club. That's fine. I'll just walk around some more, Naruto said. Okay, I'll see you later and thanks again for earlier, she said as she waved goodbye and headed towards the Magic Club. Naruto continued to walk around, but since he had none of his friends to talk to, he soon found himself bored. This was interesting at first, but now I am so bored, he sighed as he looked around. He hadn't seen any of his friends other than Yukari. Maybe I can find some kind of ramen appreciation club, he thought aloud. Only you would think about joining a club dedicated to ramen, he heard a familiar voice say. He turned around to see a familiar silver-haired vampire. Ura-chan, he cried as he lunged towards the girl. He surprised her when he suddenly wrapped his arms around her for a tight hug. I am so happy to see you. I thought I was going to die from boredom, he continued. Ura was blushing hard from the sudden hug, unable to think straight. No one but a few of her family members has ever hugged her before. Regaining her composure, she narrowed her eyes and hit him across the head, sending him crashing to the ground. Ow, Ura-chan, that was mean. Naruto whined as he nursed the bump that formed on his head. It's your own fault. I do not remember giving you permission to hug me, she shot back, but a blush could still be seen on her face. So what do I owe the pleasure of your company? Where are the others? Naruto asked curiously as he stood up straight and dusted himself. We started off just looking around with the normal group of idiots worshipping the ground that my sister and I walk on, she said, earning a snicker from Naruto. Omid let her excitement get the better of her and ran off, and with Sukune's infatuation with her he followed her. I see no point in these clubs, so I decided to walk around myself. I see. Well, look on the bright side, Naruto said positively. There's a bright side? Ura asked incredulously. Yep, now you get to spend the rest of your day with me, he said with a grin. I thought you said there was a bright side, Ura said with a straight face. Why do you have to be so cruel? Naruto sulked. Hey Kit, not that I don't enjoy watching you flirt with the hot vampire chick, but maybe you should look for the other vampire and the human, he heard the demonic voice of Kurama say, causing him to blush. Shut up, you stupid fox. I am not flirting. Sure you're not, the fox said with a roll of his eyes. Why should I look for the other two anyway? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because there's a weak human in the middle of a school of monsters, and with your luck something is bound to happen sooner or later, Kurama said sarcastically. Hey, my luck isn't that bad, is it? He asked, but was greeted with a moment of silence. Do you really want me to answer that? No, Naruto said with his head hung down low. During his mental conversation, Ura was looking at him strangely. For some reason his face went through a series of emotions, from shock, to embarrassment, to questioning, and then depression. She was starting to question the sanity of her blonde-haired companion. You think we should look for the others? He asked. Ura thought about it for a moment before nodding. Yes, I am sure that Omid will get herself in trouble and Sukune will be too ignorant to realize it. Ura stated as the two of them began their search. I am glad that you have so much faith in them, Naruto said as he sweat dropped at her response. You've met them, haven't you? Omid is too kind, it's going to get her in trouble on day, and as for Sukune, the boy is too naive sometimes. Ura explained. Naruto thought about it and he had to agree with her. Okay, I see your point. Better find them before something happens, Naruto said. They spent about the next hour looking for the other vampire and human but had no luck. Where are they? Ura asked impatiently. Not only has she been unable to find them, but every weirdo has practically begged her to join their club. She refused every time, but she was very close to killing someone. In fact, she would have killed the student from the photography club that asked her to be a nude model, but Naruto was able to drag her away before she could unleash her wrath on the poor boy. Naruto watched as the vampire began to lose her patience. Honestly, though, he was getting pretty annoyed too. Where on earth could those two have gone? He looked around to see if there was any place he missed when he saw a sign. It was a sign that promoted the swimming club at the school pool. What about the swimming club? We haven't looked there yet, Naruto suggested, but Ura just scoffed. There is no way they'd be at the swimming club, she dismissed without a glance. Why would you say that? Naruto asked curiously. Because we vampires are weak against water. They drain the energy right out of our bodies, Ura explained. Really? What a shame. I would have loved to see you in a swimsuit, Naruto said with a smirk as he watched her blush. Damn pervert. She shouted as she went to punch him, but a snickering Naruto was able to avoid it. He held his heads up in defense. Okay. Sorry, I just couldn't resist. Anyway, does Sukune know about this? Naruto asked as she regained her composure. I highly doubt it unless Omid has told him, but I don't think she has. Ura answered, looking through the crowd trying to find them. Naruto on the other hand grew silent as he began to think. Most likely Sukune had no idea about a vampire's weakness to water. It was also obvious that he had some kind of crush on the pink-haired girl. He would obviously want to do something fun with the girl. Omid was also a very kind girl. She didn't have the heart to turn down her friends, so if Sukune suggested it, there would be a good chance that she would follow along despite her weaknesses just so she could be with the boy. The only question left, is there anything Sukune would want at the swimming club? Girl you're crushing on plus school swimming pool equals girl you're crushing on wearing a swimsuit. Come on Ura-chan, we're going to the swimming club, Naruto announced as he grabbed her arm and headed towards the pool. I already told you that we vampires are weak against water. Why would Omid go there? Ura asked, not liking the fact that she was being dragged. Just trust me on this, Naruto said as they headed towards their destination. School pool, how did you know they would be here? Ura asked as she watched Sukune swim with an attractive upperclassman while Omid sat down on one of the bleachers with a downcast expression. No matter how nice Sukune is, he is still a teenage boy, Naruto answered as they made their way towards Omid. Once they got loser, they were able to spot a tick mark on Omid's head that only got bigger the more she watched the upperclassman flirt with a flustered Sukune. How's it going, Omid-chan? Naruto asked, announcing his presence. The pink-haired girl looked up and smiled when she saw them. Naruto, Ura-chan, you're here, she said in a bright tone. You see, Ura-chan. She's happy when she sees me. Why can't you be like that when you see me instead of acting all sarcastic and stuff? Naruto asked with a pout. Because unlike my sister, I do not have the patience to deal with an idiot. She deadpanned as Naruto clutched his heart in an overdramatic gesture. Your words hurt so much. I don't think I can continue on with this life, Naruto said as Omid laughed at their antics. She was sad because Sukune chose to swim while she couldn't get near the water and she was getting very lonely. Hey Naruto, why weren't you at homeroom this morning? Omid asked, wondering what happened to him. Although she wouldn't admit it, Ura was curious as well. Huh? Oh, I overslept. I was having this really great dream where instead of money people paid me with ramen, Naruto said as he began to drool thinking about his dream and what a great world it was. His answer only caused the girls to sweat drop. Well, now that we have discovered that ramen is the only thing you think about, what are you doing here, Omid? Ura asked as she looked at her sister expectantly. What are you talking about, Ura-chan? She asked, not meeting her eyes. I mean, why are you near something like a pool when you know water can cause you great harm? She asked, the look in her eyes causing Omid to shrink back. Well, Sukune really seemed interested in the swimming club. I tried to convince him to leave, but then those girls dragged him into the pool, she explained with a frown. That's no excuse. You know how dangerous water is for us. Do not do something just because Sukune wants to, Ura scolded. Hold up, Ura-chan, you're making it sound like Sukune's the bad guy. He doesn't even know about vampires and water. Naruto pointed out, only to be on the receiving end of a glare. I do not care. I will not let my sister get hurt just because the human is ignorant. Perhaps he should be more observant and notice that Omid had not joined him in the pool yet. But no, instead he chooses to flirt with some other girl while leaving Omid here by herself. Ura ranted. Hey, don't yell at me. Sukune's the bad guy, remember? Naruto cried, not wanting to be on the receiving end of her female wrath. No one's the bad guy. It's not Sukune's fault, Omid said, trying to calm her sister down. After a few seconds, Ura finally settled down. Whatever, we should leave before something happens, Ura said as she turned towards the door. But what about Sukune? Omid asked, not wanting to leave him alone. If the boy wants to swim, let him. Like I said, you should risk your health just because he want to be here, her sister answered as if it were obvious. Relax, Omid-chan. Chances are he'll join us after a bit of swimming. But Ura-chan is right. We better get you two away from this pool before something happens, Naruto added. Omid was about to protest, but she decided to give in. After all, they both had some good points. Okay then. Maybe we can find some other club, she finally said, although she still didn't like the idea of leaving Sukune alone. As they were about to leave, Sukune was able to escape from the swim club members before he reached the edge of the pool. Hey guys, where are you going? He asked as he noticed they looked like they were about to leave. The girls aren't really fond of swimming. You looked like you were enjoying yourself, so we thought we'd let you enjoy yourself a bit while we looked for something else to do, Naruto explained. Oh really? I was hoping that we could all swim together, Sukune said with a frown while Naruto smirked. He crouched down and spoke so softly that only Sukune could hear him. Are you sure it didn't have anything to do with seeing Omid-chan in a swimsuit? He whispered, causing Sukune's face to burn red with embarrassment. Of course not, he denied with a flushed face. He figured it out, he thought to himself as Naruto stood up straight, the girls wondering what he said to get Sukune so flustered. If you guys aren't interested in joining, I guess there's no point. It's not really much fun doing this without my friends, Sukune said as he was about to get out of the pool. Before he could leave, a pair of arms wrapped around him, pulling him back in. Where are you going, Sukune? A female voice said. The group looked to see a girl with long turquoise hair. Tamao-senpai, Sukune said, startled. Why are you leaving? She asked with a pout that caused the human to blush, much to Omid's annoyance. Oh well, I wanted to join a club with my friends, but they aren't really interested in swimming, he explained, causing her to frown. How would they now that if they haven't even entered the pool? She asked as she snapped her fingers. Out of nowhere, two more members appeared and grabbed Naruto by his arms. What the hell? The blonde asked, surprised. Girls, if you would, please give him some proper swimwear. If he actually takes a dip with us, he might be willing to join, Tamao suggested. Hi, both girls said as they began their work. Naruto tried to struggle from their grasp but failed as a cloud of smoke surrounded him. The group watched as articles of clothing flew from the smoke cloud, followed by high-pitched screaming. What are you doing? No, stop that. That was my best shirt. Don't touch me there. They heard him shout in a panicked tone, causing them to sweat drop. Once the smoke cleared, the girls blushed furiously. There stood Naruto in nothing but a pair of orange swimming trunks. He was very physically fit for someone his age, and while he wasn't overly bulky, you could definitely see muscles on his body. However, what really caught their attention, especially Yura's, was the fist-sized scar that was on the right side of his chest. How on earth did he get a scar like that? It looks like someone punched a hole right through him, Ura thought curiously. Naruto did not notice the attention he was drawing to himself from the female students. He clutched his arms and was visibly shivering. I don't think I've ever felt so violated before, he said, causing them to sweat drop again. Now that he's ready, why don't we give him a hand? Tamao said, causing the other two members to nod. On it, they chanted before pushing the unsuspecting blonde into the pool. What have I ever done to deserve this kind of treatment? He shouted before he hit the water with a splash. He quickly emerged coughing up water before glaring at the members. What the hell was that for? He shouted. What? We just wanted to swim with you, Tamao said innocently. That doesn't mean you have the right to strip me or push me in, he shot back. You're stressed. I am sure a relaxing swim with us will calm you down, she reasoned as two more members appeared and wrapped their arms around both of his. Where the hell do these girls keep coming from? He shouted as they pulled him underwater trying to get him to swim. When they emerged they were surprised to see them holding another male student who had a dreamy expression from being held by two girls. Glad I was able to escape. They heard a voice say. They looked to the side to see Naruto climbing over the edge and leaving the pool. Thank God I did that emergency underwater substitution. These girls are crazy, he thought to himself as he walked back towards the vampires, careful not to touch them while he was still wet. How did you do that? Tamao asked surprised. How on earth did he escape them underwater? That should be impossible, she thought as she narrowed her eyes at the blonde. Do what? Naruto asked, feigning innocence. Anyway, like I was saying. I am sorry Tamao-senpai, but I don't think the swimming club is for me, Sukune said as he tried to get free from her grasp, but she wouldn't have any of that. Earlier it was obvious that you wanted to swim. Why did you suddenly change your mind? Is it because of them? The turquoise-haired girl asked as she looked at Omid and Ura. I just want to hang out with my friends. It's no one's fault that they don't like swimming, Sukune answered. I just don't understand. If you want to swim then swim, but if you don't you have no reason to be here, she said as she splashed some water at the two girls. Not expecting the sudden action, the girls were too late to avoid the water. Once it made contact they screamed in pain as sparks surrounded their body. What happened? A worried Sukune shouted. He was about to check on the two girls when he heard someone else scream. He turned around as his eyes widened in shock. Two swim club members bit one of the male students in the pool. Right before his eyes Sukune watched as the boy began to age at a rapid rate until he resembled an old man. What the hell just happened? Naruto asked as he saw the whole thing. I hope you don't think too badly of us, they heard Tamao say, and they were shocked to see a fishtail where her legs should be. Luring men into water and sucking their life force is just the way me mermaids live. Mermaids? Oh no, they have us trapped in the pool. Sukune though worriedly as he watched the other members transform into mermaids. He tried to get away but Tamao cut him off. Where are you going, Sukune? She asked as she started to circle him. I've had my eyes on you for a while. Well, both you and Naruto. You two have the most delicious scent. If I had to guess, I'd say it was that of a human, she said as she got closer to Sukune, who was looking very nervous. Let go of him, Omid shouted as she got back up on shaky legs. Such a nuisance. What are you going to do? You can't even touch the water, let alone reach me here, Tamao taunted. Omid-san can't touch water. Sukune thought, surprised. Was that why she wouldn't swim with him? That's some big talk coming from a lousy fish. Ura shot back as she stood by her sister before she did something stupid. You two are starting to get on my nerves, Tamao said with a frown before she swung her tail, creating a large wave. Acting on instincts, Ura quickly pushed Omid out of the way but couldn't escape herself. Ura-chan! Omid screamed wide-eyed as she watched her sister scream in pain, sparks of electricity shocking her body before she collapsed onto the ground. The mighty vampire race succumbs to a little water. How pathetic, the mermaid said with a smirk. Now where were we, Sukune? She asked as she turned to the boy only to find him missing. Yahoo, looks like I came right on time to save you, huh, Sukune-kun? They heard from a cheery voice above. They looked and saw a flying Kurumu carrying Sukune through the air. Kurumu-san. What are you doing here? Sukune asked nervously. He was not used to flying unless he was in an airplane. I came to help my destined one, of course, she declared proudly before she frowned. Thank you, he said, relieved, before looking at an immobile Ura who was lying on the ground with the occasional sparks flying from her wet clothes, glaring at the mermaid. Is it my fault that Ura-san is in such a condition? Because I didn't notice how uncomfortable Omid-san must have been around the pool, he thought guiltily. Just wait until I get my hands on you, Ura growled as she tried to get up. She didn't notice Naruto walk up to her until he picked her up bridal style. What the hell are you doing, Uzumaki? She shouted with pink-stained cheeks. Relax, Ura-chan, I'll handle this. The water already drained a lot of your energy. We don't want you to get hurt even more, Naruto advised. I am not some damsel in distress. I do not need you to fight for me. I am perfectly capable of fighting my own battles, she yelled, ignoring his advice. Naruto just rolled his eyes. Sometimes she was too stubborn for his own good. Oma-chan, stay here with Ura-chan. Hopefully this is far enough from the water, Naruto said as he sat the silver-haired vampire down on one of the benches. I told you I do not need you to fight for me, she shouted in annoyance as Oma appeared next to her sister. Naruto, who was heading for the pool, paused and looked over his shoulder at the girl. I am perfectly aware that you can fight for yourself, but Tamao made a big mistake, and if I don't blow off some steam I might do something I'll regret, he told her before looking at the mermaid, who was looking at him with a cocky smirk. And what mistake did I make? She asked in a condescending tone. You hurt my friend, the blonde growled as he unleashed his killing intent, causing the mermaids to freeze in fear. I'll destroy you. How are you going to do that? You can't even reach us here in the water, one of the mermaids said, trying to brush off his threat. Naruto just looked at them and smirked. Then in a blink of an eye he vanished and reappeared in front of the mermaid, who spoke, delivering a harsh kick to her face, sending her flying. You might have been able to get one of us, but now you're stuck here in our territory. We mermaids are unbeatable in the water, Tamao boasted, but her and everyone's eyes widened in shock when they saw Naruto calmly standing on top of the water. Maybe I wouldn't be able to fight you in water, so I'll guess I'll have to fight on it instead, he said with a grin. That's impossible. What are you? Tamao shouted in surprise. Naruto looked at her and his pupils turned into slits. I am the guys whose friend you hurt, he said as he ran on the water towards the mermaids. It doesn't matter if you can walk on water. You still won't be able to stop us. Get him, girls, she shouted as the mermaids charged. They have me outnumbered and I want to keep my shadow clone technique a secret for as long as I can. Naruto, though, as he ducked down to avoid one of the mermaids who jumped at him. He grabbed her tail, swung her around and threw at another two girls. You're going to have to do better than that if you want to get me, Naruto taunted as he sidestepped away from another strike and delivered a blow to the stomach, knocking the mermaid out. Stop playing around. Get him, Tamao shouted as her and a group of mermaids surrounded the blonde before leaping at him. Seeing no room to dodge them, Naruto released the chakra gathered around his feet, causing him to sink down. With the blonde no longer in their path, the mermaids crashed into each other before falling underwater. Seeing this, Naruto raised his arm and began the first two stages of the Rasengan, but instead of using his chakra to force the water in multiple directions, he had it flow in a single direction. That, combined with the amount of chakra he put into it, he was able to create an underwater cyclone that swallowed the mermaids. From the outside, the others looked at the surface of the pool, trying to figure out what was happening. What do you think is happening? Sukune asked, worried about his friend. I don't know. I wish there was something we could do to help, Omit said with a frown. Beating a mermaid underwater is nearly impossible and he has to fight more than one, Kurumu added. The fool wanted to fight, so let him. It's his own fault for getting himself into that situation, Ura said from her position on the bench. She was getting very annoyed. With all the water that hit her, she felt very fatigued. Not only that, but she was worried about Naruto even if she didn't want to be. Suddenly the surface of the pool water began to move around. It started as small movements, but the speed soon increased. Pretty soon they were staring at what could only be described as a whirlpool. Then the remaining mermaids were sent flying from the pool, where they crashed onto the ground away from the water, where they were less dangerous. After that the whirlpool began to disperse, and soon after Naruto came up and swam to the edge of the pool where he could climb out. Naruto, you're okay, Omit said cheerfully. If he wasn't so wet, she would have ran over and hugged the blonde in joy. Please. Did you think I'd lose to a couple of fishies? Naruto asked with a grin as he channeled his fire chakra to dry himself off. Where did that whirlpool come from? Kurumu asked with a curious expression. Sorry, but a magician never reveals his secrets, Naruto answered with a shrug, causing her to pout. Naruto laughed at her antics before glancing at Ura, and he frowned. It looked like she would pass out any moment. You okay, Ura-chan? You look pretty worn out, Naruto asked as he walked over to it. It will take more than some water to finish me off, she scoffed, trying to hide the discomfort she was in. Of course, he said as he shook his head. Without warning, he picked her up bridal style. What are you doing? Unhand me this minute, she shouted as she felt her cheeks heat up. You guys for on ahead. I am going to take our little stubborn vampire here to the infirmary to make sure she's okay, Naruto said as he carried her out of the pool. I am not stubborn. They heard her shout before they were out of sight. Naruto must be pretty brave to act like that around Ura. I am surprised she hasn't killed him yet, Kurumu said nervously. She didn't forget the fight she had with her and how she easily overpowered her. Ura-san can be a bit scary at times, Sukune agreed. He was terrified of the silver-haired vampire. I don't know. I think it's nice that Ura has a friend like Naruto, Omit said with a smile. Well, I guess we better leave before they wake up, Sukune suggested as he glanced at the unconscious mermaids. The two girls also looked at them and nodded before leaving the pool. The next day, I am really sorry about yesterday, Omit-san, Sukune said as he walked to class alongside Omit. For what? She asked with a confused frown. About yesterday, I was so preoccupied with having fun that I completely ignored you. It's pretty much my fault that this happened. If I had noticed how uncomfortable you were, we could have left before those mermaids attacked us, he explained in a dejected tone. Don't worry about it, Sukune, it's not your fault. Omid tried to reassure, but he just shook his head. How can you not be mad? It's because of me that you and Ura got hurt, he said, blaming himself. No, it wasn't. It was because of Tamao-senpai and the other mermaids. You can't blame yourself, Sukune. I never told you about our weakness to water. It was an honest mistake, Omid said, trying to comfort him. Maybe, but, he started but was interrupted by a sudden hug from the vampire. Just let it go, Sukune. It's over and we can all just leave it behind us, she said as she pulled back from the hug, a bright smile on her face. Sukune just nodded as he blushed. Okay. Thank you, Omid-san, he said with a small smile, feeling better. No problem, she said brightly. Just who I was looking for, Nekonom said as she suddenly appeared by the two students. Sensei. The two of them asked, wondering what their teacher wanted with them. I needed to talk to you too. It's come to my attention that you have not joined a club yet, the cat-like teacher explained. Oh, well, you see, we sort of ran into some problems, Sukune said, trying to figure out how to explain that a group of mermaids tried to suck their life force. We're sorry, Sensei, Omid added, hoping they weren't in trouble. It's all right. The reason I am here is to see if you would be interested in joining the newspaper club. So far only Naruto has joined, she said, surprising them. Naruto joined? Sukune asked, not expecting that. Yes, he did. What about you two? Are you interested? Nekonom asked expectantly. The two students looked at each other before smiling. Hi, it sounds like fun, Omid said excitingly. We would love to join, Sukune added when Kurumu appeared out of nowhere. I am joining too, Sensei, the succubus chirped with a smile. Kurumu-chan. What are you doing here? Omid asked, wondering where she came from. I am always where my destined one is, she said as she wrapped her arms around Sukune's, causing Omid to grow a tick mark. Let go of him, Kurumu-chan, Omid said as she grabbed Sukune's other arm. The two looked over him and glared at each other, sparks of lightning emitting between them. Sukune laughed nervously before he noticed something. Hey, Omid-san. Where's Ura-san? Sukune asked. Omid stopped glaring at Kurumu and turned to Sukune. She's still a little worn out from yesterday. She got hit by a lot more water than I did. All she needs is a little rest and she'll be good as new, she answered. When do you think she'll be better? Kurumu asked curiously. She'll probably be up and running later on today, Omid said, earning a nod from the other two. Huh, Naruto isn't here either, Kurumu pointed out. You're right. I wonder where he could be. Sukune thought aloud, getting shrugs from the other. I am sure he'll show up sooner or later, Omid said as they went to class, the two girls pulling on Sukune's arm, trying to get the other girl away from him while said boy cried anime tears. Ura's room. Ura was lying on her bed recovering from the other day. The reason why she was currently bedridden was because of yesterday's events. Speaking of yesterday's events, they were the only thing on her mind at the moment. More specifically, it was Naruto that she was thinking about. She was wondering about the strange things he did yesterday. She never heard of anyone being able to stand on water, let alone a human, and there was also that thing with the whirlpool. Since Naruto was unaffected by it, she could only assume he created it, but how? Even when he's not here, he finds a way to annoy me. She grumbled as she felt a headache coming from all her thinking. A sudden knocking on her door snapped her out of her thoughts. She watched as the door opened and Naruto walked into her room with a large smile on his face. It's like he knows when someone is thinking of him, she thought. "How ya doin', Ura-chan?" he asked as he took a seat next to her. "I was doing well, but then you appeared," she said, causing his shoulders to slump. "So cruel," he muttered as she rolled her eyes at his antics. "Why are you here, Uzumaki? Don't you have class to attend to?" she asked as she raised a delicate eyebrow. "You expect me to go to class when one of my dearest friends is feeling unwell?" he asked as he took an overdramatic pose. "Meaning you saw this as an opportunity to skip class," she bluntly said, causing him to sweat drop. "Of course not. I was worried about my darling Ura-chan," he said as he received a harsh glare that even made Kurama a little nervous from where he was watching in Naruto's mind. "If you ever call me your darling Ura-chan again, I will make sure you will never be able to reproduce," she threatened as Naruto paled before nodding rapidly. "I won't make that mistake again, ma'am," he said, getting a nod of approval from her. "Good, now then, I have some questions." She started making sure he was paying attention. "You have told us you are human and I believe you. But what I want to know is how you were able to do those strange techniques." I don't know what you are talking about." He lied, unable to think of anything, but Ura wasn't about to let him off the hook like that. She had questions for some time and she will get the answers no matter what. "Let me refresh your memory. When we first faced Saizo, you created some strange blue orb. Against Kurumu you were able to block my kick, which should be impossible for a human, and of course there was yesterday. Are you honestly going to try and deny the fact that you were standing on water when there were plenty of witnesses?" she asked with a glare that pretty much said, "Go ahead and lie. I dare you." "I, channeled my inner flames of youth," he offered, but paused as he thought about what he said. Konoha Team 9 training grounds. The members of Team 9 were currently training when the taijutsu specialist Might Guy came to a sudden halt. Judging by his face, you could tell he was in deep concentration. "Is something wrong, Guy-sensei?" Lee asked, wondering what was on his sensei's mind. "No, it's just that my youth detector has picked something up," he informed as he rubbed his chin in thought. "Youth detector?" Neji questioned, wondering if he even wanted to know. "It seems like another person has embraced the ways of youth," he shouted, ignoring Neji's question. "All right, in honor of this mystery person I will work to spread my flames of youth, and if I cannot I will run 50 laps around Konoha on my hands," he shouted to the heavens above. "I too shall honor this person, and if I cannot I will do 100 push-ups with a boulder strapped to my back," Lee shouted with as much enthusiasm as his sensei. "Thata boy Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei." The two green-clad ninja of Konoha shared and embraced as a sunset appeared in the background. A few feet away you can see Neji and Tenten banging their head against a nearby tree. Ura's room. The room was silent for a few minutes. "What?" Ura finally asked, not believing what she said. "What the hell were flames of youth?" "I can't believe you just said that," Kurama groaned as he covered his eyes with a paw. "Shut up. Just shut up," Naruto said in his mind, wondering what on earth possessed him to say that. Naruto was quiet for a bit, trying to think about what to say. He knew he couldn't keep everything a secret after everything they saw. He guessed that he could give her some answers. "All right, you win. Like I said, I am human, but I am also a shinobi," he stated. "A shinobi?" she asked in a somewhat interested tone. "Yeah, we're trained to use chakra, which is like Yuki but for humans. By utilizing my chakra I was able to create the Rasengan, which was that blue orb you saw. We can even use our chakra to walk on water or walk up trees without using our hands," he explained, hoping this would satisfy her curiosity. "I see," she said as she absorbed the information. It certainly explained things. "There was also that scar on your chest. I am curious, how did you get a wound that would leave such a scar?" she said, raising an eyebrow when she noticed him stiffen at the mention of the scar. "Sorry Ura, but I don't really want to talk about it," Naruto said, looking away from her. Ura frowned at this but decided to let it go. Everyone was entitled to their own secrets. "Very well," she said, getting a grateful smile from the blonde. "Anyway, I know just the thing to make you feel better," he said as he pulled out 2 bowls of ramen out of nowhere. "How the hell will ramen help me?" More importantly, where do they come from? Ura shouted. Honestly, what was with his obsession over ramen? Poor naive Ura-chan. One cannot explain the miraculous powers of ramen through words alone. One must simply accept and be thankful for it. Naruto said sagely before he started to eat his bowl. Ura just stared at him incredulously before sighing. Chances are she'll never fully understand her blonde friend, but she knew one thing for sure. Things were never boring with him around. And with that thought she began to eat from her bowl. After all, she hadn't eaten a thing all day. Sukune, may I please suck your blood? Omid asked with a smile. Before he could even answer, she was already in front of him. Kapu-chu, she said before she bit down into his neck. What do you think you're doing? Kurumu shouted as she pointed a finger at Omid, who stepped back from Sukune with a delighted blush and a satisfied smile on her face. Thank you for the treat. Your blood is definitely the tastiest. If I am not careful, I might just get addicted, she said, ignoring the succubus, which did not please her. Who said you could just suck my destined one's blood? Kurumu yelled as she crossed her arms and glared at the vampire. What? Sukune never said anything about it, Omid said with a confused look on her face. On the side, Sukune was standing on wobbly legs with a dazed expression. She sucked my blood again. If she keeps going at this rate, I'll die of blood loss, but having her so close to me is amazing, the human thought to himself, not sure how he should feel about this situation. Look at him. You're sucking him dry, Kurumu cried before grabbing his head and pressing it against her breast. Don't worry, darling. Kurumu will protect you from her. What do you mean, protect him from me? I've never done anything to hurt him. Plus look at you. You're suffocating him. Omid shouted as she pointed at Sukune, who was flailing his arms around before they went limp from the lack of oxygen. Off on the sides, Ura was leaning against a tree with her arms crossed. Next to her, Naruto was sitting on one of the tombstones that decorated the school grounds with a bag of popcorn in hand. This never gets old, Naruto said as he ate a handful of popcorn before offering some to Ura, who refused. Maybe to you, but I have already grown tired of their useless squabbling, Ura complained as they watched sparks fly between the two girls that were glaring at each other. You need to lighten up, Ura-chan. Learn how to enjoy the simple things in life, Naruto said as he began to laugh. He swore he could see Sukune's soul trying to escape through his mouth. I think I know a way to lighten up, as you say, she said as she glanced at the blonde, who looked at her curiously. And just how are you going to do that? He asked wearily when he saw a strange gleam in her eyes. Today after school you and I will have a sparring match, she said, and if Naruto didn't know any better he would say she was smiling. What? But today is the first day of the newspaper club, he pointed out. It wasn't like he didn't enjoy a good spar, but still. So, I haven't had a good spar in ages. Who cares if we are a little late? She said with a shrug. Like she said yesterday, she thought that the clubs were a waste of time. I don't know, Ura-chan. I already got in trouble for skipping school yesterday to visit you. I don't know if I want to risk getting into more trouble, especially when it's still so early in the year, Naruto said unsurely. If Ba-chan finds out I am goofing around, then she would kill me, he thought with a shiver. Ura frowned at his hesitance. She really wanted to spar with him. So far everyone at the school has proven themselves too weak to offer her a challenge. The only reason that the mermaids got the upper hand of her was because she pushed Omid out of the way, resulting in her getting hit with the water. The only one she has seen who could offer her a good fight was Naruto. She sighed as she realized what she had to do. She was very reluctant, but she would have to swallow her pride a bit. After all, desperate times call for desperate measures. Naruto, please, she said with a pout as she looked him in the eyes. The fact that she had called him by his name made him look at her in shock. But then when he caught sight of her pouting, it was too much. He always knew that Ura was a beautiful girl, but he never thought he would see her look so adorable like she did at the moment. He could feel his resolve crumbling as she looked at him before he couldn't hold it in. All right, you win, he said in a defeated tone, but seriously, how could he say no when she was looking at him like that? Excellent. Then we have an agreement, she said with an excited grin. You two aren't even dating and she has you whipped, Kurama quipped. Shut it, you oversized plushie. Naruto shot back, earning a growl from the demonic fox. What the hell did you just call me? He asked in an annoyed tone, causing Naruto to inwardly smirk. I am sorry, did you say something? he asked, feigning innocence, laughing when he heard Kurama cursing before stomping to a corner of his cage where he would ignore the blonde. So after the last class we will meet up and have our spar. Then we will go to the clubroom. The advisor is Nekonom. I am sure she will not be too upset, he heard Ura say. I guess. Come on, we better go before the late bell rings, Naruto said as he stood up, stretching a bit. Do you want to or should I? Ura asked as she stepped away from the tree and pointed to the two girls who were still arguing about Sukune. I'll go this time, he said before turning to the other three and shouted, Hey, as much as I love watching a good love triangle, we have to go to class. With that down, he placed his hands behind his head and headed to class, Ura walking by his side shaking her head. The other three following behind with blushes on their faces. End of last class. Naruto ran out of the classroom with a large smile on his face. He thought he would pass out from boredom. Why the hell did I think that going to a school would be fun? He muttered to himself as he walked through the hall looking for Ura. Quit complaining, you wanted to see the world outside of Konoha and now you can, he heard from Kurama. I know, but school, what was I thinking? I've never been good at school. TCH. What about the friends you made here? You never would have met them if you hadn't come here, Kurama said, getting tired of his containers complaining. Guess so, Naruto admitted. Plus, didn't you just say to enjoy the simple things in life? You should follow your own advice. Besides hanging out with my friends, what could I possibly enjoy at this school? Naruto asked curiously. Are you serious? Do you not see all these hot chicks wearing short-ass skirts? Hell, what about the three girls you hang out with? They're easily the hottest girls at this school, especially the silver-haired one you're so close to, the fox said with a grin as Naruto blushed. What the hell is wrong with you, you Ero Kitsune? What do you mean what's wrong with me? I just happen to have a keen eye when it comes to female beauty. Now hurry up and find the vampire chick, and while you're at it, see if you can cop a feel during the spar, Kurama said, laughing loud when Naruto's blush grew. Are you all right, Uzumaki? Your face is all red, Ura said as she appeared in front of him, surprising the blonde. I am fine, he shouted, still flustered from his talk with Kurama. Ura looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Okay then, she said slowly, shall we go? She asked. Naruto nodded his head as the two made their way to an open clearing where they could spar without the prying eyes of Ura's fan club. So, you want to do this sealed or unsealed? He asked as he dropped his bag, loosened his tie and took off his blazer. We are only having a light spar, so I will fight in my sealed state, she answered as she did the same as Naruto. Shrugging, Naruto walked back a few steps in order to give a bit of a distance between the two. Well then, are we ready to go? Naruto asked as he got into a fighting stance. I think we are. Remember, it is only a simple spar. No need to break any bones, she answered as she got into her own stance. The two silently stared at each other, and then, as if some silent signal went off, they simultaneously charged. Naruto started off with a simple jab aimed at her head. Ura slapped it away before hitting an open palm strike at his chin, causing him to step back. She followed with a kick, but Naruto ducked down and did a sweep kick, causing Ura to fall. She quickly rolled out of the way, avoiding a follow-up hit. Not bad, Uzumaki, she complimented with a smirk before she charged again. She went for a punch, but Naruto crossed his arms and blocked it. He grabbed her arm and kicked her sides before punching her stomach. Ura gasped for air before narrowing her eyes. With her arm that was still in his grasp, she grabbed his arm and tossed him over her shoulder, catching off guard. Naruto got back up only to receive a devastating kick to the face, sending him bouncing against the ground. He stood back up and smirked. Are you sure you're in your sealed state, cause that was damn good kick, he said as he massaged his jaw. Aren't you sweet, but flattery will get you nowhere, Ura said as she got back into her fighting stance. The two charged again and exchanged a barrage of blows and blocks. Meanwhile, newspaper club room, I would like to welcome the new members of our club. Thank you for joining, and let's begin. I am sure we'll have a lot of fun together, Nekonom said with a bright smile. The room was silent as Sukune looked from Nekonom to the classroom. We're the only ones here, he thought, as the only other occupants of the room were Omet and Kurumu, who were sitting on either side of him. Sensei, are we the only members of the club? Sukune asked, causing Nekonom to laugh. Don't be silly, Sukune, of course you're not. There's also Naruto-san and Ura-san. Though, I wonder where they are. Nekonom informed. That's right. Ura-chan told me to tell you that they'll be a bit late, Omet said. I see. Thank you for telling me, Omet-san. Nekonom said as the door to the classroom opened. The others were expecting their two friends but were greeted with the sight of someone else. My, how embarrassing. Late on the first day. A boy with black hair said as he offered the group a suave smile. This is the other member of our club. Nekonom said as she pointed to the boy who looked about a year older than the others. Hello. I am Jin Morioka, the club president. It's a pleasure to meet you. He said, smiling, and if you looked close enough you could see his teeth sparkling. He looked at Sukune first and then looked at the two girls. In an instant he was in front of them with a bouquet of roses for the both of them. Sensei told me about the new members, but she failed to mention how beautiful you two are, he said as he handed the bouquet to them. This is our president. Sukune thought as he watched the older boy carefully. He didn't like how Jin was looking at the girls. Jin is the only second-year student that is on the club. If you have any questions please just ask him, Nekonom explained. You can count on me, he said as he gave the group a thumbs up. Alright then. I have a staff meeting to go to, so I'll leave them in your care, Jin, the teacher said as she left the room. Alright, leave it to me, he told her before the door closed. Once the teacher was gone he looked at the remaining three residents seriously and began to speak. Well, let's see. First I'll give you the explanation of just what kind of club it is. The goal of the newspaper club is to publish the school newspaper. Most of your activity will be reporting in all kinds of things within the academy and putting them in the newspaper. Will be put into dangerous situations time after time for the sake of reporting. I'll tell you right now, this ain't gonna be an easy ride. Once you've joined, you should prepare yourself. The others were silent as they digested what he just said. He looks like someone we can rely on, right? Omet asked as she looked at Sukune. Yeah, I guess so. He answered a bit unsurely. Just then Jin's face broke into a smile and he chuckled. Just kidding. Let's forget about all this serious stuff and have some fun, he said as he held up a poster. This is our poster ad. I would really appreciate it if you could hang it up for me. The three of them nodded as they got to work. Omet and Kurumu stood on some chairs in order to hang up the poster while Sukune was looking over the posters. He looked over at the club president who stood behind the two girls giving instructions. At first Jin Senpai looked like nothing but a flirt, but it seems like he can be serious at times too. He thought before he noticed something. He looked loser and saw that as Jin was instructing the girls to hang the poster higher he walked closer and looked up. Human's eyes widened when he realized where he was looking. He's peeking up their skirts, he thought as he ran there and stood in front of Jin to block his view. Senpai, what are you doing? How could you? Sukune asked as he stared at him shocked. This student was supposed to guide them in the club, but this is how he's acting. What are you talking about? Jin asked innocently as he looked at the boy confused. Don't pretend that you don't know. You were definitely looking up their skirts, he accused. Why would you say that? There's no way I would do something like that, Jin said, waving a dismissive hand at him. He's lying. I definitely saw him peeping, Sukune thought as he stared at Jin. What's going on? Omet asked. When she and Kurumu finished hanging the posters they noticed Jin and Sukune were having some kind of discussion. Oh, the thing is, this guy just told me how he looked up your skirts and got a good view of your panties, Jin said as he pointed his thumb at Sukune, whose jaw dropped. How could he blame him for the crime he just committed? What? Both girls cried with blushes on their faces. Wait, don't listen to him. It's a misunderstanding. I mean, I may have gotten an accidental peek, but it was Jin Senpai who, he tried to explain but never finished. With Naruto and Ura. Naruto was walking through the hallway with Ura by his side. Both had some light bruises and scratches but didn't really worry about it. After all, with their advanced healing abilities they will be gone in no time. I must say, Uzumaki, I am quite pleased. The spar went much better than I thought, Ura said. Easy for you to say. What happened to no broken bones? I think you dislocated my shoulder with that last axe kick you hit me with, Naruto said as he stretched his sore shoulder around. It wasn't my fault you didn't dodge, Ura shrugged. How could I dodge? When you raised your leg you gave me a good shot of what's beneath your skirt, Naruto thought with a blush. You didn't grope her like I suggested, but a panty shot is still pretty good, Kurama said through the mind link. Stop saying things like that, Ero Kitsune. Naruto shouted, causing the fox to laugh. The two made it to the club room and were about to enter when the door suddenly opened. They watched with raised brows as a fuming Omid and Kurumu stormed past them without so much as a glance. They looked at the departing girls and then inside, seeing Sukune, who had a red handprint on both cheeks with a laughing black-haired boy next to him. What just happened? Naruto asked. The black-haired boy looked at them and his eyes widened when he saw Ura. Naruto noticed a strange gleam in the boy's eyes as he looked at the silver-haired girl. The same gleam he noticed whenever Jiraiya had some sort of perverted thought. Nothing really, this guy just got caught peeking up the girl's skirts, he said before Sukune could say something. Sukune was about to say something in his defense, but the temperature in the room suddenly dropped. You did what? Ura growled as her glowing red eyes glared at the frightened boy. He was going to die. There was no question about it. He knew how protective Ura was of Omid, and now he was going to die. His thoughts were confirmed by her next sentence. I'll kill you. She shouted as she lounged at the boy. How dare this human peek at her sister? Before she got too far, Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her back. Calm down, Ura-chan. Naruto shouted, trying to calm the girl down. Release me this instant, Uzumaki. I will teach this pervert a lesson. Ura shouted as she tried to escape from his grasp. Hey kid, look at that other one real quick, he heard Kurama say. Confused, Naruto did as instructed, but still made sure he had a tight grip on Ura to make sure she didn't kill Sukune. Because Sukune was too frightened and Ura was too angry, Naruto was the only one to notice. Jin was looking at the two of them with narrowed eyes. More specifically, he was looking at the arms that were wrapped around Ura's waist. It was a look Naruto knew pretty well, the look of jealousy. The same look he had himself when he still loved Sakura, but the only thing she cared about was Sasuke. Better keep a close on this one, kid, Kurama warned, and Naruto silently agreed before looking at the struggling girl in his arms. Ura-chan, calm down. How do you think Omid-chan will feel if you killed her friend? He asked as he vampire began to calm down. TCH. Let me go, Uzumaki. I will not harm Sukune, this time, she said, and Naruto carefully let her go. Well then, now that that's over, let me introduce myself. I am the club president Jin, he said as he pulled a bouquet of roses out of nowhere and handed it to Ura. Ura just stared at him blankly, and without even looking at the bouquet she turned to Naruto. I am going to find Omid. You can stay here if you wish, she told him, and Naruto noticed the look of jealousy in Jin's eyes again. It looked like he didn't like being ignored by Ura. Alright then, I'll see you tomorrow then, Naruto said, and she nodded before leaving the club room. After a moment of silence, Jin finally spoke. Well, since most of the club has left, I guess we can call it a day. I'll see you guys tomorrow, Jin said as he left the boys in the room. Alright then, Sukune. Why don't you tell me what actually happened? Naruto suggested as he crossed his arms and listened to Sukune explain what really happened. Next day, I don't like perverts, Omid said before she walked away. Sukune, who was trying to explain himself, stood there frozen in place. Finally coming out of his stupor, he tried to follow her. Please listen to me, Omid-san. It's not what it looks like, Sukune pleaded. I don't care, just go away, she said as she ran away. Watching them from a distance, Naruto sighed. How come it always seems like those two are fighting? Naruto asked. I am not sure, but it does seem to be happening quite often, Ura agreed. I did not sign up for all this drama when I enrolled here, Naruto complained, wondering what he and Ura would have to do his time to get those two on the same page again. There's no use crying about it now. Come on, we better leave before we are late, Ura suggested. Nodding his head, Naruto slung his arm over her shoulders and the two began to walk. Watch out for Jin, he said quietly. There was no telling when someone could just be eavesdropping. You think so too? Ura asked just as quietly. Yeah, when I looked at him yesterday he had this strange look in his eyes, Naruto said as she nodded. Yes, I can also feel that he is hiding his strength. I do not know how strong he actually is, but it would be best to be cautious around him, Ura advised. Watching the scene from afar, Jin smirked when he watched how Omid wouldn't give Sukune the time of day. But the smirk fell and he glared when he saw how close Naruto and Ura seemed. He even growled a little when he saw the blonde put his arm over her shoulders. Jin put on a charming smile as he walked over to a pair of girls. "Excuse me ladies, but would you mind if I ask you a question?" he asked politely. "What do you want?" one of the girls asked. "Well, you see that Sukune is always hanging around Omid-san. Are they dating?" he asked. "No one knows for sure, but they don't really match right. I mean, she's really beautiful while he's just so average," the girls said. "But there are rumors saying that people have seen Omid-san kissing his neck, so maybe they're dating," her friend added, causing Jin's eyes to widen. "I see. What about Naruto-san and Ura-san? Those two seem awfully friendly towards each other," he said as the girls adopted a thinking expression. "Well, Ura-san doesn't really like to hang out with others," one of the girls said. "Yeah, besides her sister, the only person she really talks to is Naruto-san. Those two are really close. Naruto-san is probably the only one that Ura-san allows so close to her," he friend added as Jin began to grit his teeth. "Omid-san kisses his neck. Ura-san lets him be so close but wouldn't even say hi to me," Jin muttered under his breath as the two girls looked at him oddly. Unable to take it anymore, he began to pull his hair and screamed in frustration. "You have got to be kidding me. What's so special about those two? Why are they so close to those two goddesses?" he screamed into the sky. "Oh God, he's insane," one of the girls shouted as they ran away from Jin. He took some deep breaths in order to calm himself. "Mark my words, you two. I don't care who you are, but the Akshiya twins will be mine," Jin declared as he walked away thinking of a plan to win the hearts of Omid and Ura. Naruto and Ura separated as they had to go to different classes. As he was whistling a simple tune, he noticed a familiar head of sky blue hair. "Hey there, Kurumu-chan," Naruto greeted. "Ah, Naruto, how are you?" she asked with a smile. "Pretty good. So what's going on? You look like you're searching for something," Naruto asked as he watched her lower her head. "I was looking for Sukune-kun. Yesterday I jumped to conclusions without letting him explain. Then when I thought about it, I realized that he doesn't really seem like the type to peep on girls," she explained solemnly, causing Naruto to smile. "Relax, I am sure he'd be more than willing to forgive you," he reassured her, making her brighten up. "You really think so?" she asked hopefully. "Positive," he said, laughing when she hugged him. "Thank you, I feel better now. But I still have to find him," she said as she began to look around the hall. "There he is," Naruto said as he pointed to a depressed-looking Sukune who was dragging his feet through the halls. "Perfect. Hey Suku," she started to call but was stopped when Naruto placed a hand over her mouth. He dragged her to one of the corridors where they could hide and removed his hand. "What are you doing?" she asked, annoyed, but he just shushed her. They looked over and saw that Jin had approached Sukune. "Kurumu-chan, follow us from a distance while I stay with Sukune," Naruto ordered, getting a confused frown from the succubus. "Why? What's going on? There's just something about this Jin that Ura-chan and I don't like. We have to be careful around him," he answered, making Kurumu agree. Besides, if both Ura and Naruto found something odd about their president, then something was definitely up. With that said, Naruto walked over to the two boys. "Hey there, Sukune Jin-san," Naruto greeted. "Ah, Naruto, I was looking for you too. I was just telling Sukune here that today's club meeting will be outside. Since we're all here, why don't we head off now?" Jin suggested with a friendly smile. "I guess so," Sukune said with a frown. He was still mad about what Jin did the other day. Naruto took a quick glance over his shoulder and saw that Kurumu was watching them carefully. "Sure thing," he said as the two of them followed Jin until they were outside. "Why the hell are we here?" Naruto asked as he looked at their surroundings. "Aren't we just at the back of the school? Why would we have a club meeting here?" Sukune asked. "You two need to relax. The others will be here soon," Jin said with his usual friendly smile plastered on his face. "By the way, Omid-san was pretty pissed off yesterday, huh?" he asked Sukune good-naturedly. "Yeah, she won't talk to me at all," he growled out as he glared at the president, who didn't seem bothered by it at all. "Sorry about that," he said, but it was clear that he wasn't as he looked at Naruto. "And then there's Ura-san. She didn't even acknowledge me yesterday. It broke my heart. What can I say? She either likes you or she doesn't," Naruto said with a shrug. He looked up and saw Kurumu watching them from the roof. "Good, so far so good." If they kept this up, then they could figure out Jin's plans sooner or later. Well, now that we're here, I need you to look at the window over there. Jin instructed as he pointed at the window he wanted them to see. Why? Shouldn't we wait for the girls? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. For a split second, worry crept into Jin's eyes before it vanished. They'll be here, but we don't have to delay the meeting just for them. We can catch them up on things, he said as if it were no big deal. Watching him carefully, Sukune finally nodded and stood on a nearby crate so he could reach the window. You know what's weird? Omate-san and Ura-san are much better than what I heard. Who knows, I think I am falling in love with both of them. Weird, huh? He said casually. Sukune and Naruto looked at him, not expecting that. I swear that I will make them my women, he promised with a smug smile. Why is he telling us this? Sukune thought. What's his game? Naruto wondered. Sukune was about to ask Jin what he meant when he heard a sound coming from the other side of the window. When he looked through, his face grew bright red as he looked at a group of girls undressing. Jin-senpai, this is, he tried to say as he turned his head and paled when he saw a camera in Jin's hand. Girls' changing room. I know, he said, smirking as he showed him the picture he took of Sukune looking through the window. Hey, look, a pervert! Naruto shouted. The others were surprised and Jin was about to run for it when he tripped on his feet. He looked down and saw that his feet were tied with some kind of wire. Naruto quickly drew a kunai from inside his blazer and threw it at the camera, breaking it 2 pieces. He heard some shuffling from the girls' changing room and acted quickly. He grabbed Sukune's arm and threw him into the air. He followed by jumping off the walls so he could reach the roof before the girls could see him. Damn it! When did this get here? Jin asked himself as he tried to get the wire off his legs, when a shadow spread over him. He looked up and paled when he saw a group of angry girls glaring at him. Now ladies, this is actually a pretty funny story. He tried to explain, but it fell on deaf ears and he was forced to feel the wrath of angry females. From above, Naruto watched with a smirk as Jin's screams of pain filled the air. Thank you, Naruto, Sukune said as he was being held by Kurumu, who was flying above. No problem. Thanks for helping us, Kurumu-chan, Naruto added, giving her a thumbs up. Anytime. Kurumu smiled as she gave a victory sign. Later on that night, a bruised and beaten Jin stomped through the school grounds. His eyes scanned through the crowd of students until he found who he was looking for. Glaring at the blonde, he marched over to Naruto and grabbed his shoulder. Ah, Jin-senpai, so nice to see you, he said with a cheeky grin as Jin's eye began to twitch. I must admit those were some nice moves you pulled off, Jin said with a frown. What can I say? I've always been a bit of a fighter, Naruto said with a shrug. Listen, I think you and I can be great friends. All you have to do is stay out of my way so that I can get the Akshiyas. What do you say? Jin said, causing Naruto to roll his eyes. You honestly think that I'll just stand by while you do who knows what to my friends just because you asked? Naruto asked, shaking his head. I thought so. It looks like the only way to settle this is the old-fashioned way. Right now, you and me on the roof. Whatever, Naruto said as he followed Jin to the roof with the others, and that's what happened. I swear I wasn't trying to peep at you, Omate-san, Sukune said honestly as he explained what happened the other day. It's true, Omate-chan. Earlier today I watched as Jin-senpai tried to trick them into peeping and then taking a picture as blackmail. If it wasn't for Naruto's quick thinking, it probably would have worked, Kurumu added. I am sorry for not listening, Sukune, Omate said with shame. Sukune was her first real friend and she wouldn't even listen as he tried to explain himself. It seems like she could be as stubborn as her sister. It's okay, Omate-san. I am just glad we're okay again, Sukune said with a smile, earning a smile from the pink-haired girl. Now that we have all made up, what are we going to do about Jin? Ura interrupted. I am not sure, he seemed pretty obsessed with you too, Sukune said as he pointed to the vampires. Why is it that you always get the attention? Kurumu complained with a pout. I already told you that I do not like this sort of attention, Ura shouted as her eye twitched in annoyance. Now's not the time to fight with each other, Omate said, trying to stop another fight from happening. Sukune's sweat dropped as he watched the girls argue when he noticed someone missing. Ura-san, where's Naruto? He asked. How should I know? She asked with a raised eyebrow. Because you two are always together. It's like you two are attached at the hip or something, Kurumu answered. The only reason we are attached at the hip like you say is because he is an idiot that doesn't understand the concept of personal space. She huffed as she crossed her arms. Yay, but it doesn't look like you mind. In fact, if I had to guess I'd say you rather enjoy it. Kurumu said smirking when she noticed Ura blushing lightly. I am not sure what you are implying, but I warn you succubus, watch how you speak to me or you will pay, Ura said with a glare. Let's not fight. Beside Ura-chan, it's alright if you enjoy spending time with Naruto. Omid added, but instead of helping it made Ura's blush deepen. Who says I enjoy spending time with him? She yelled in annoyance. Seriously, why were they talking about her strange association with Naruto? Maybe we should focus at the problem at hand. Like where Naruto is or what we are going to do about Jin-senpai. Sukune said, hoping to stop the teasing before Ura loses her temper. Well, after the way Naruto tricked Jin-senpai, I'd say he would want some sort of revenge, Kurumu suggested. Do you think he would want to fight him or try to hurt him? Omid asked, worried about her friend. Possibly, but would Naruto do something foolish like walk into Jin-senpai's trap and fight him head-on? Sukune asked. It was only quiet for a second before Ura spoke up. Let's go find him. Knowing Naruto, he's already fighting that idiot president, she said as she began to walk away. The others looked at each other before nodding and followed after her. Rooftop, you sure you want to do this? Naruto asked as he stared at the boy in front of him. Jin just ignored him and chose to stare at the moon instead. You know, he moon really is beautiful. Whenever I see it I usually get a little wild, especially when it's full like now. Jin said with a smirk revealing a sharp canine-like tooth. I really don't have time for this. Let's just get this over with, Naruto said as he got into a fighting stance. I couldn't agree with you more. Once you are out of the way I'll take care of Sukune. Then the Akashiyas will be mine. Now tremble in fear. He roared as his body began to transform. His body was soon covered in fur, his face took the shape similar to a dog's and his hands became razor-sharp claws. Once he was done he released a howl into the air before smirking at the blonde who was silent. That's right, I am the legendary werewolf. Looks like he's too frightened to move let alone fight. Jin thought smugly. Wow, so your true form is an oversized dog? Naruto asked as he tilted his head, causing the wolf to fall over anime style. I am a wolf, not a dog. He growled in annoyance. Whatever, let's go, Naruto shouted as he ran towards the wolf. He delivered a punch but only met air. Where on earth are you aiming at? I am over here. Jin taunted from behind before kicking the blonde. Naruto stood up in time to feel the impact of a knee in his stomach before he was punched in his face. What's wrong? I thought we were here to fight, so why are you just standing around? Jin taunted as he kicked Naruto in the side, followed by an upward slash cutting his cheek. Wind Claw, Naruto said as his hands became covered with wind chakra, making them more claw-like. He moved his head in time to avoid another punch and slashed Jin across the chest. Jin stumbled back and Naruto followed through with a roundhouse kick at the wolf's head, sending him flying, but Jin grabbed the railing before he fell of the roof. This seems unfair. Last time you got to fight the mermaids and now you get to fight this dog. They heard a voice say. They looked at the roof leading to the roof and saw that it was open with Ura walking out followed by the others. Hey guys, what's going on? Naruto asked as he kept a careful watch on Jin, who was staring at the twins with a look of lust. I think we should be asking you that question, Ura said as she walked over to him. Last time she was forced to watch as Naruto fought for them all and she was not about to let that happen again. Suddenly a bright light from behind them flashed. They turned to see Omid in her released form, her rosario in Sukune's hand. Her pink hair grew a silver streak, her eyes turned a light shade of red with slitted pupils and her hands became more claw-like. Seeing their questioning looks, she smiled. I might not be as strong as you two, but that doesn't mean I am helpless. This guy tried to turn me against Sukune and he's after me too. This is just as much my fight as it is yours, she explained. Just be careful, Omid, Ura said with a smirk before turning to Naruto, and if you would be so kind, I would appreciate it if you removed my Rosario Uzumaki. This was supposed to be a one-on-one fight between me and the mutt, but I'd rather avoid the wrath of two angry females, he said as he pulled of her Rosario. A wave of Yuki filled the air as her pupils transformed into slits. Her fangs became more pronounced and her hands were now like claws. So the rumors are true. You two really are vampires. But it's pointless. When it comes to speed, we werewolves are unbeatable. All the power in the world is useless if you can't hit your opponent. Jin shouted as he became a blur, circling the three of them. So this is the speed of a werewolf. I must admit it is impressive. Ura thought as she had trouble following his movements. I can't see him. He's really fast, Omid thought as she looked around. Let's see, he's not as fast as Lee is without his weights, but it's still pretty impressive. All I have to do is get him to hold still, but how? Stupid perverted wolf. Naruto thought before his eyes widened and he grinned. That's it. Ura-chan, Omid-chan, I have a plan. When I get him to stand still, you two go for the kill, Naruto said. Very well, Ura said, wondering what he had planned. You can count on us, Naruto. Omid added. What's the matter? Have you decided to give up and accept that you two will be mine? Jin said with a fanged grin. I hope you are ready, Arrow Mud, because here I go. Uzumaki Forbidden Arts, he said as he made a hand sign. Forbidden Arts. How interesting, Ura thought as she watched on. Forbidden. That means it's really strong, right? Sukune thought, wondering how Naruto knew such a move. Probably, I mean it has to be forbidden for a reason, right? Kurumu asked, wide-eyed, wondering what kind of attack Naruto knew that it was forbidden. Sexy technique, Naruto said as a cloud of smoke surrounded him. Jin appeared in front of him and was about to finish him off but froze when the smoke disappeared. Standing in front of him was a naked girl with large breasts, her blonde hair tied into pigtails, and the only thing covering her modesty was the residual smoke. You're not going to hurt me, are you, Jin-sama? The girl asked with wide tear-filled eyes. Sukune fainted from a mass of noseblood while the girls blushed furiously. What are you waiting for? The girl asked, snapping them back to attention. Ura looked and saw that Jin was in a daze as he stared goofily at the naked girl in front of him. Seeing this as an opening, she moved. Let's go, Omid, Ura said as she ran towards the wolf. Right, Omid shouted as she followed her sister. The girl transformed to reveal a grinning Naruto, who jumped back right at the moment Ura appeared in front of Jin while Omid was behind him. Know your place, they both said as they attacked. Omid smiled in satisfaction when she felt her kick hit the back of Jin's head hard, while Ura had a sadistic smirk when her kick connected with Jin's groin. Jin's eyes widened so much that it looked like they would fall out at any moment while he opened his mouth to scream in pain, but no sound would come out. Girls stepped away as Jin fell to his knees. Without warning, the rest of his body crashed to the ground, unable to stand the pain, and passed out. Ha! It looks like we win, Naruto shouted as he pumped his fist into the air. His joy was short-lived though, as he received a kick to the head that sent him crashing into the roof's door. What the hell? He asked groggily as he held his head in pain. He looked up to see Ura glaring at him and he gulped in fear as she walked over to him. What happened? Naruto asked as he stared into her eyes. He could have sworn he saw his whole life flash before him when he saw the anger in them. What the hell was that? She asked angrily. What was what? He asked, only to yelp in fear when she grabbed the front of his shirt and slammed him against the door that was still intact somehow. That transformation thing you did, she said as everyone except Naruto blushed, remembering what he did to keep Jin from moving. Oh, that was the first technique I ever created. It's the ultimate anti-pervert technique, Naruto said with pride. Well, other than the harem technique, that is, he thought, but noticed that dark aura around Ura. Never use that technique when I am around, or so help me, she said, trailing off in the end, but Naruto had a pretty good idea of what she meant. Yes, ma'am, he said, nodding his head frantically. Good, she said as he let go of him. She was about to leave when she caught the scent of something. She breathed in the scent and was mesmerized by it. She looked around and she found his source. Right on Naruto's cheek was a cut he got from Jin's claws, with a rail of blood falling from it. You okay, Ura-chan? Naruto asked, wondering why she wasn't moving. In fact, based on the look of her eyes, she seemed to be in some sort of trance. Ura didn't hear him though. The scent of his blood was blocking her other senses. She took a step towards the blonde, their faces extremely close together. Without thinking, she stuck her tongue out and gently licked a bit of the blood on his cheek. Ura-chan. What's going? Naruto started, but the words died in his throat when he felt Ura lick his cheek. He didn't know what to think, but he felt his face heat up at the unexpected action. Ura didn't seem to notice this, however, as she tasted his blood and her eyes widened. In layman's term, the taste was magnificent. She had never tasted blood like this before and she wanted more. She took another lick and savored the taste of the blood. The whole time Naruto was blushing up a storm. Once she finished the last of the blood on his cheek, she trailed her tongue along his cut. Naruto wasn't sure what he should do. Never in his life was he in this kind of position. He felt Ura press her body onto his as she began to moan softly. It seemed like his blood had quite the affect on her. Finally she stopped and she took a step back. He looked at her face and saw that her eyes were a bit glazed. You Ura-chan. Why you okay now? Naruto stuttered, snapping her out of her trance. Ura blinked a few times as she stared at him until her eyes widened in realization. She backed up a bit as her face practically erupted in flames, it was so red. She looked around and her embarrassment grew when she saw the others looking at them with slack jaws and wide eyes. She tried to say something, but every time she opened her mouth it just closed, unable to think of anything. Sorry, she finally mumbled before leaving the roof, leaving a confused, hot and slightly aroused blonde wondering what the hell just happened. He was about to ask the others but stopped when a thought entered his mind and he groaned. There was no way Kurama was going to let him live this down. Next day Ura leaned against the railing of the roof as she watched the newspaper club hand out their first paper. It was an article revealing the perverted actions of Jin and how the female population of the school should be wary of him. As a part of the club she should be helping them, but she couldn't face anyone. Not after they saw what she did. How could she lose control of herself and let her instincts take over? She knew that the succubus would never shut up about this, and knowing how Naruto loved to tease her, she had a feeling he would be mentioning the little incident often. Damn it. You always seem to find a way to give me a headache, Uzumaki. Ura sighed as she messaged her temples. Now that's just mean. I haven't even said a thing yet. She heard a voice from behind say. She turned around to see Naruto walking towards her with his hands behind his head and a grin on his face. What do you want, Uzumaki? Ura asked as she looked back at the view from the roof. So mean, Ura-chan. You don't even say hi to me? I am crushed. Naruto said as he walked forward until he was standing next to her. There was a moment of silence until Ura finally spoke. Is there a reason you're here? She asked without looking at him. Well, none of us have seen you today, and when you didn't arrive to help hand out the papers we got a little worried, so I went to search for you, he explained. I just wanted to be alone so I can think, she said, still not looking at her. Is it because of yesterday? He asked and was awarded with the sight of Ura's blushing face. I have already apologized. I let my instincts get the best of me, she said, hoping to drop it, but what he said next shocked her. I don't mind, you know, he said so casually that she almost didn't understand. When his words registered, she looked at him wide-eyed. What? Was the only thing she could say. I mean, yeah, at first I was a little freaked out, but that was because I didn't expect it. I talked to Oma-chan afterwards and she explained what happens when vampires catch the scent of blood. That sometimes they just can't control it. Last night was one of those times, I guess. He explained as he looked at her. Thank you for not making a big deal out of this, she said, relieved, and Naruto nodded. He knew she was a very proud girl, and to do something like that in front of the others must have really embarrassed her. You know, if you really want to, I have no problem with letting you suck my blood, he told her as she was once again shocked by his words. What? She asked dumbly, and Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at her gobsmacked expression. You're a vampire, you need blood. I understand, and I have no problem if you want to suck my blood like Oma-chan does with Sukune, he explained. Why would you do that? She asked. Because Ura-chan, you are my friend and there isn't anything I wouldn't do for my friend, he said with a grin. She looked at him to see if this was a trick but only found honesty. She allowed a small smile to grace her face. Thank you, I am glad I have a friend like you, Naruto, Ura said, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. So, are you going to say Kapu-chu before you suck my blood like Oma-chan does? I have to admit that would be pretty cute, Naruto said, causing Ura to roll her eyes. Of course he would say something stupid that would ruin the moment, but then again, he wouldn't be Naruto if he didn't. The two of them left the roof and headed to meet the rest of their friends to help with the club, and if you listened carefully, you could hear the screams of pain from Jin as the female students who read the article unleashed their wrath on the wolf. Where the hell is she? A random student shouted. I don't know, but we have to find her, another shouted. She is going to pay. A third one shouted as the group of 3 students looked around trying to find their target. Sitting on a tree branch out of view from them, a little girl was sitting down as she watched them with a grin. She reached into her backpack and pulled out 3 banana peels. Waving the wand in her hand around, the banana peels levitated in the air before flying towards the students before they landed in front of them. Not paying attention, the boys took a step forward, and as one they slipped on the peel and landed on the ground. What now? One of them groaned as he rubbed his head. It's definitely her fault. Another one muttered. When I get my hands on that witch, she's going to pay. The third one added as he glared at nothing. We're not going to find her by just standing here, the second one said. The other 2 nodded and they took another step forward, and then fell to the ground face first. They looked at their feet only to find their shoelaces tied together. Gaining a tick mark, they took their shoes off and ran in a random direction. When we find you, you'll be sorry, Sendo, they shouted. Once they were gone, the little girl couldn't take it anymore. She dissolved into a fit of giggles until it became hysterical laughter as she clutched her sides, trying not to lose her balance. Not bad, Yukari-chan, a voice from above said, startling her. The young witch looked up to see Naruto casually lying down on the branch above her with a fox-like grin on his face. Naruto, what are you doing here? She asked with a smile. I came to visit my friend and I find her playing pranks, but I hope you remembered my rules, he said as he looked at her. Nodding, Yukari pulled out a small notepad, flipped a few pages and began to read. Yep, when pranking someone, make sure it is someone who deserves it. Try to avoid pranking the innocent unless it would be really funny. Yukari read. Looks like you were paying attention to my classes after all, Naruto said, pleased as he jumped off the branch and landed on the ground gracefully. Instead of jumping, Yukari carefully climbed down until she reached the ground besides the blonde. So Naruto, how's Ura-san? Yukari asked as the 2 began to walk around. Oh, you know Ura-chan. One moment she's pretty nice to me and then 5 seconds later she says something sarcastic and then rolls her eyes while calling me an idiot, Naruto answered with a shrug, causing Yukari to giggle. Anyway, I've been thinking, maybe it's time you meet my other friends, Naruto said casually while Yukari fidgeted a bit nervously. I don't know, I've been really busy with my studies, she said. That or you're afraid they'd treat you like the other students around here, he said calmly while Yukari stiffened a little since he was right. Maybe, she admitted as she looked at the ground. Naruto sighed as he stopped walking and placed a hand on her shoulder, causing him to look up. Relax, Yukari-chan, you have nothing to worry about. Oma-chan is one of the sweetest girls alive and she's always looking forward to making new friends. Sukune is also a good guy, and as for Kurumu-chan, she's a bit eccentric but she's a good girl. Just don't get in her way when she tries to get Sukune, Naruto added in thought. Are you sure it will be alright? Yukari asked attentively. She would like to make new friends, but for all she knew they could turn out like everyone else. Of course it will. Besides, I'll be there too, he added. Yukari thought about it before nodding her head. Okay, if you're sure it will be okay, I'll meet them, she stated with a small smile, earning a grin from the blonde. Alright then, I'll find you after school and take you to the newspaper club. We all joined it so everyone will be there, Naruto informed as the bell rang. Okay then, I'll see you later, Naruto, Yukari said as she ran to her next class. Hopefully by the end of the day she would meet some new people who would accept her despite her being a witch. End of school. Yukari was walking through the halls heading for the bulletin board. Now that classes were over, the list of academic ranks would be posted around the school. She was confident that she would be number 1, but she wanted to look and be sure. As she walked towards her destination, she could hear a few students whispering about her and witches. None of what they said were compliments either. While she was still a bit hurt by them, she was able to handle them better. After all, she had a friend in Naruto, and although she didn't know Ura that well on a personal level, she was nice to her when they first met. Ignoring the insults thrown at her, she looked at the bulletin board and smiled when she saw she was ranked number 1 again. She took another look and saw that Ura was ranked 5th while Naruto was ranked 152nd. Shaking her head, she smiled. Naruto wasn't the best student, but he was a good friend. She was about to leave and search for Naruto, but she heard the crowd around her go in an uproar. Amazing, Omid-san is ranked 13th. A random student said with hearts in his eyes. Not only does she have beauty but she has brains too. Another one shouted. She's perfect. Another shouted as similar comments were shouted, but the pink-haired vampire paid no mind to them as she smiled when she saw her rank. Amazing Omid-san, looks like you'll have to work hard and follow your example. Sukune said with a smile as he was ranked 128th. It's not really that much of a big deal, Omid said as she blushed from the praise. I think I should get you to teach me some of your study methods so I can do better next time. Sukune said, causing Omid to brighten up. Of course, and in exchange you can let me suck your blood. Does that sound all right, Sukune? She asked, causing the human to face fault at the mention of his blood. While the two of them were talking, Yukari was watching them curiously. Omid and Sukune, are they the friends that Naruto was talking about? Maybe I should introduce myself to them now, the young witch thought. She took one step towards them but stopped and shook her head. No, it's probably better if I wait for Naruto, she decided before she turned around and was about to go when a familiar face approached her. Yukari Sendo, so nice to see you again, the class representative said as he looked at the little girl, disgust clearly seen in his eyes. What do you want? She asked in annoyance. Seems like Naruto had influenced her more than she thought. Her reaction caught him off guard since the last time they met she was terrified of him. Now that's no way to greet an old friend, is it? He asked in fake hurt. We're not friends, she growled as she tried to walk by him, but he stopped her. Unknowingly their confrontation caught the attention of Omid and Sukune. The two of them started their way over there hoping to figure out what was going on. I'd watch your mouth, witch. Your blonde bodyguard isn't here to save you this time, the class representative said. Just because he isn't here doesn't mean you can boss me around, she shouted as she kicked the older student in the shin. Why, you little, that's it, I've had about enough of you, he shouted as he was about to hit Yukari. The young witch closed her eyes awaiting the pain, but like the last time it never came. She opened her eyes and was surprised at what happened. Standing in front of her was Omid, who stared defiantly at the class representative. What are you doing? Omid asked, shocked that someone would strike a little girl. The class representative stared at her and gritted his teeth in frustration. First it was that damn Uzumaki kid and now this. You got lucky again, Sendo, but pretty soon it will run out. I have no time for you, he said before turning around and walking away. Releasing a sigh of relief, Omid turned towards Yukari, who was looking at her in surprise. Why did you help me? She asked, earning a confused look from the pink-haired vampire. What do you mean why? I helped you because you needed it, Omid answered as if it were the most obvious thing, which to her it was. Thank you so much. My name is Yukari Sendo, she introduced with a bright smile. Isn't that the name of the first-ranked student? That's you, Sukune asked as he walked towards them. Amazing, you must be very smart, Omid complimented with a smile, causing Yukari to blush from the praise. It's nothing really, she said as she scratched the back of her head in a sheepish manner, something she picked up from Naruto. With Naruto was now standing at the meeting place that he and Yukari agreed on, but there was one problem. Yukari was nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Did she just decide to leave? He asked. It's your own fault. You fell asleep at the end of class and now you're about 30 minutes late from the agreed time, Ura said. As she was walking through school she saw a sleeping Naruto and woke him up. After waking up he explained how he was going to introduce Yukari to the rest of the gang. It's not my fault that math is so boring, Naruto whined. Whatever, it is clear that she is not coming, so we might as well go to the club room, Ura stated. Guess you're right. I'll just have to bring her over some other time, Naruto said as the two of them made their way to the club room. You guess I am right. Please, I am always right, Ura said as she crossed her arms. To quote a certain silver-haired vampire, I never knew you were so humble, Naruto teased with a smirk. Ura simply rolled her eyes, but there was a small smile on her face. As the two continued to walk, Naruto noticed that Ura seemed a bit off. She would glance at him every now and then but quickly look away. It also looked like she wanted to say something but held her tongue. Something wrong, Ura-chan? Naruto asked as his curiosity got the best of him. And no, everything's fine, Naruto, she said as her cheeks gained a light pink hue. You know, if something's wrong you can just tell me, he said. She was silent for a while, debating with herself if she should actually go through with this. Do you remember what we talked about on the roof after the incident with Jin? She finally asked. Naruto was quiet as he thought about the incident with the perverted wolf a few days ago. After a little bit of thinking he pounded a fist into an open palm. You told me to never use my sexy technique in front of you again. But wait, what does that have to do with anything? Naruto asked as he scratched his head in confusion. Ura felt her eye twitch at the reminder of the perverted technique but shook her head as she tried to remain calm. Not that, I meant what you said about your blood, she clarified. Oh right, I said you could suck my blood anytime you wanted, just give me a heads up, he said, tilting his head to the side, wondering what was on her mind. Yes, well, if the offer still stands, I was wondering if I could have some blood now. Her blush deepening as she looked at him with an uncharacteristically shy look. Naruto blinked 3 times as he just stared at her. Her words finally registered and he shook his head with a grin. That's what's been bothering you. I already told you it was okay, he said as he loosened the collar of his shirt and turned his head a bit to expose his neck to her. Nodding her head and smiling in gratitude, Ura stood in front of him and leaned closer to his neck. Her fangs extended and without saying anything she gently bit into his neck. The next thing she knew, an explosion of flavor happened as she lost herself in the taste of his blood. Naruto wrapped an arm around her waist to keep her balanced as she sucked his blood, releasing an occasional moan of pleasure causing him to blush. Having her fill, she released him and licked any excess blood off her fangs and lips. Enjoy yourself, Naruto asked as he noticed her dazed expression. Your blood is delicious, she said before she noticed how a frown made its way on his face. What's wrong? It's just, you didn't say Kapuchu like Oma-chan. I thought it would have been really cute if you did, he said, a bit disappointed, causing Ura's eye to twitch. Idiot, she muttered as she shook her head and made her way towards the club. Naruto noticed that she had a bit of a spring to her step and wondered if his blood really that much of an effect on her. But then again he remembered Anko saying how delicious his blood was. Pushing those thoughts away, he followed Ura. The two of them reached the room and opened the door. They walked in and then walked back out to make sure they were in the right room. Sure enough, the number on the door was correct. They looked back into the room and were wondering what the hell was going on. Ura-chan, is this actually happening? Naruto asked in a confused tone. I believe so, Ura said, just as stumped as her blonde friend.